I forgot to turn on my camera so I can have everything locally record. My bad.
Got it. Okay. So the question is, how do I create my books? I'm assuming you're asking about like the plot or the storyline, the characters, things like that.
It could be a little bit of everything. Just why even start another book?
One, me as an individual, I love creating. I think I didn't realize it until, I actually created a children's book I'd done. And then which then led to the first novel, The End, which you had in your hand, that I realized that I was actually a storyteller. And, what's interesting though about it is like, I'm a storyteller in kind of more long form, if that makes sense. Like I've never been good in conversational storytelling, I don't think. I don't know if it's because I'm thinking like my words have to catch up with my thoughts so often when I'm speaking sometimes. Like my thoughts are like way down the road. I'm already thought it and then I just have to connect all of it together. So when it comes to like the long form storytelling, um, I think I do okay at that. And I think the novels speak for themselves now. But so yeah, I kind of realized I was a storyteller. But as far as like the very, very first book, I had written it because I was heavily reading apocalyptic fiction at the time. And there was a kind of a plot or there were elements in the books I was reading that I was missing. And I wanted something that was a little bit more kind of global, kind of had a little bit more complex. I kind of wanted to know when I was reading these other books, I wanted to know what was going on in the halls of government, what was happening kind of to our military as they're deployed, what is happening here and there, wherever else. Not just what's happening to, John Q. Prepper. And a lot of apocalyptic fiction has like John Q. Prepper, badass, special forces guy. And he's kind of what you call, there's a character that's created that can never do any wrong. You ever heard of the Mary Sue?
It sounds familiar.
A Mary Sue character. Well, if written, that's for females or for the female character, but for the male character, it's called the Gary Sue. And essentially it's a character is perfect, can never do any wrong, right? They're just written the way they never do any wrong. You have to agree with them. All characters end up agreeing with them and whatever their thoughts are. There's never any real like growth of the character. Like you're introduced to them and they're perfect and they go and solve all the world's problems. And at the end, like everyone loves them. But of course they do because everyone already loved them anyway. And so I was finding that a lot in some books. There wasn't a complex character or someone that was having to overcome. They were having to overcome, but they were perfect in everything they ever did. And I wanted to create a character, and say Gordon specifically, that had flaws. And if you ever do continue the rest of the books, you'll see that what is portrayed as some of his strengths and his kind of a take action real quickly kind of persona ends up failing him dramatically in book 2, which then he has to reassess his thinking and how he acts and conducts himself. And there's something too that I was missing too, and you see in a lot of television shows, I think today, and movies, is kind of more of an anti-hero kind of element. I think some of my villains that I'll portray, and if you continue to read, you'll be introduced to, are interesting. You actually grow to like these antagonists in some regard. Very charming people, intelligent, outgoing. Like someone, if you were to meet, like, I really like this guy, but deep down they're just evil in their own way, or have goals that are very selfish, and they'll do whatever. So when I'd written the first book, I just wanted to write a book that I wanted to read, and I think that's important for anyone that's out there that wants to be a writer. Is you yourself has to be the first reader. You have to write the book for yourself. What do you want to read? What do you think you'll enjoy? And I think I accomplished that. I know when I think it was the editorial director at Penguin was going through it, she was like, "Wow, this is a really complex plot." I guess it is, and it's not, but it's not simplistic. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different locations to kind of tie in, which is fun. I really enjoyed that, but I really wanted to give the reader kind of an overview of what was happening again in the halls of government, what was happening kind of with your traditional kind of nuclear family that's living in a suburb, what would happen to the military if this kind of an event would occur. And I think I I paint that picture really well, and I think it's pretty accurate, by the way, what would happen to the military in that kind of a situation.
That was one of the nice parts about your book, or at least the first one. Obviously, it probably gets better after this one. That it's not complicated; it's just complex. That there's a lot of that you go between different narratives, different people, but it's not complicated where you don't know why certain things are happening. Everything kind of ties together properly.
That's a good way to put that, and I think people can. I think I've just naturally been able to write that understands how the modern day reader consumes books. Like if you were to go back, and I think some people are still taught creative writing to write like they did 200 years ago, and I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think people consume media. Their brains work differently. There's no reason to have 4 pages to describe a desert. Right? Because everyone knows what a desert looks like. You've seen one, or you've been to one, or at least you've seen it on the screen in high def today. If you're not, then you're probably the very, very, very few percent. But if you were to go back 200 years ago, if you're living in London, you probably have no idea what a desert looks like. So the writer would have to describe that in detail specifically. So you have a general understanding, okay, so your imagination can try to, frame that and render that image. And I find some writers still do that today, and I think it can be very slow. It creates a very slow-paced book, and I think some readers end up abandoning that. But they'll abandon the book because it's too complex.
There's the one part that I'm at right now where Gordon is talking, or it's kind of at conflicting with the HOA. I forgot her name, and it was interesting how Gordon's mindset. I'm starting to like the guy a lot more. He's more take action, where she's trying to process and do everything that's more like and less, for lack of a better word, like a corporate vibe. She's trying to figure out everything and then take action, which ideally in most situations, that's obviously the best way to do it because you have time. But when you don't have time, you can't just think about it. You can't plan it out.
And in her character, what she was trying to do, and it makes sense when you're presented a situation like we have in the book. Gordon is correct. The time is of the essence. There's only a certain amount of resources. You have to act quickly in order to secure those resources, as well as secure the things that you'll need to protect yourself. He understands that. She's, by the way, what you're probably, I'm not sure if you're picking up on it. She's actually, and a lot of people would get this way. It's like a psychological trait for people. She's actually scared. And so what gives her comfort is the security of doing it the way that she's always done it. So she falls back on, well, this is how we have to do it. And that was and the world had shifted. That's why it's called the New World series. The world had shifted instantly. It was a different world. When the grid collapsed, it wasn't coming back. The world was never going back to that, at least not for a very long time. And so it takes, leaders and people like Gordon who can operate quickly. It's for instance, speaking of a corporate world, you have some people that thrive really, really well in a corporate world, but they don't do really good in startups, right? Startups are kind of running by the seat of your pants. You have a title, but you're doing 20 different things. I'm in a couple startups right now, and so I love startups. I love kind of the Wild West energy that comes from them, right? But then there's some people that are in startups. They can't go to that conformity. The rules, the structure, it's too rigid for them. So Gordon is the character that he's built for this, right? He had the sense about him and the strength about him to operate in the modern world, and he could, but this is an environment he can thrive in. Whereas you look at her, the HOA president, she can't thrive in this environment at all. Maybe she's good at being the head of an HOA and the structure that's there, and everyone's following by the rules because that's just what you do when everything is working and functioning correctly. But when there's chaos and mayhem, she doesn't know how to deal with that. And again, I think that's a good point with the corporate startup personalities, 2 different personality types.
Does Gordon stem, his mindset and personality type, does that stem from, one, his military background of being in the Marines, being at war, and also, more importantly, your mindset of being in the Marines?
There's some of me in Gordon. It's not completely me. I think when you write characters anyway, you're taking from what you know. I think that's another bit of advice I'd give writers. Write what you know. That's easier. If you can write a complete book based on what you know, it'll seem believable. And so that's very important. So write what you know. And so all the characters are taken from people that I know. Now they're not carbon copies or clones. They're just little elements of the character, little elements of nuance and things like that. That's what I use to build characters from. Like, so some of the bad people in there are people that I probably don't like. The people that I don't like will end up in my books, not by name, but by their characters and traits.
Is that how you look at people in some ways, that you don't care about who they are, you care about or you don't care about the person itself, but rather the character that they embody, and then you're able to see that with other people, and then you can prevent going down relationships that would probably just be a duplicate of what you've seen before?
Well, isn't that how we all operate? I mean, there's traits, there's energy, there's things that we will pick up on people and like, oh, that's not necessarily kind of what I like to do or how I see my life, or it's my value system. I think that's how we all are. Wouldn't you say you're the same?
Well, yeah, pretty much. But I just wanted to see, like, because I'm not as much of an author, I'm more of a speaker, or not speaker, but more of I wanted to see, like, from the character arcs that you try to create in your stories and the representations that you see them in real life, is your characters like a developmental arc of all the people that you've met in your world?
I think so, yeah. And then some of them are, I do want characters to grow and to learn as they're on their story, they're on the arc. They're going to come into situations, they're going to have conflicts, and they'll have to learn from those, or they don't learn, then they'll continuously suffer. Again, that's something else we can get from life, right? We're presented with challenges. That's why I always kind of have this mindset. I don't look at failure or failing as a bad thing. I think failing is a very good thing. I think failing is as a teacher. Many people will look at something that doesn't work for them, and then they turn it from failing, present tense, to failure. So they give up and they abandon it. And instead of embracing it and reframing it that this didn't work, so I failed at that, or I failed at this technique, or I failed at whatever, but I'm going to choose to look at it as an opportunity to learn and to grow. And then you take that, what a lot of people would say is a bad thing, and you turn it to good. And I want a lot of the characters to have that type of growth in there, that they're reflective on mistakes or situations they see and go, okay, that didn't work. I didn't like how that came out. What am I going to do to change that? How am I going to grow as a person to be better?
Do you see failure and quitting as the same thing, or multiple that people who get obsessed with failure decide to quit?
The quitting part is when you become a failure. So you just quit. It's just, so if you're, say the failing in present tense, you failed something. It's like an obstacle in front of you. The person who quits just stops at the obstacle and they're staring at it. They don't go any further. In fact, if anything, sometimes they go back and they just retreat from that, whatever they just retreat. When I look at as an opportunity, as you hit that obstacle, you then stop, you're aware that it's in front of you, but you're also aware that there's other things around you, and you look around. Like, how am I going to navigate around this obstacle, right? So it's stopped you. You then adapt, and you change, and you continuously move forward, right? Quitting is just abandoning what your goal was because something popped up in front of you.
Two things. There's one saying that's like 90% of everything that you think might happen, or bad things that might happen, never happen, and the 10% that do aren't as bad as you think they were. But then there was that other quote, the other quote that you have in your book, which is, here's a test to find out whether your mission in life is complete. If you're alive, it isn't. Which I thought that was a nice quote. It's just...
That's a powerful, it's from a great book too. Yeah. Is that great?
I mean, there's been time, like, for the podcast, there's the editing part, there's the filming part, there's the like creating all the thumbnails, creating the descriptions if I can, the putting the timestamps in, and it's like there's been times where I'll like get so obsessed with one thing that it's like there's like I keep doing the same thing and over and over, and I'm like, this is not working, so I just go over to something else and then keep working on that, and then I guess my brain just processes the first thing, and then when I go back to it, it's like, this is a lot easier than I thought of. So what's your viewpoint on on waiting for things versus like the anticipation, but like having patience versus anticipation, which then would lead to like anxiety?
Well, I used to be a little bit more of an anxious person when I was younger. I know what's helped me along the way is because it's our thoughts. Like you mentioned it earlier about we'll get in our thoughts and all these, specifically at 3 a.m. for me. I don't know why, like early mornings, like you wake up like stressing about shit. And it's always the worst case scenario that's going to play out. And you're right. It never is it? Right? It never is. So I've come to realize that maybe it's wisdom because I'm kind of gotten a lot older. I know that now when I encounter something. I tell my wife all the time that everything works out anyway. It's okay. When something happens, like it's okay. It's going to be all right. Because I have an entire life of looking back, it always has been okay. And I don't even give much credence to those thoughts of doom and gloom at all. And then whenever I need to kind of bolster my confidence to have that mindset, I look towards other people for inspiration. You know, King Solomon from the Bible apparently was the richest guy in the world, whatever, at that time period, right? And yet here's the richest guy in the world. So imagine like kind of an Elon Musk kind of a person, right? He's everything. He has so much wealth that's ridiculous. He can do anything. He's all powerful in so many ways. But yet even someone that has all that wealth and power would still have issues, would still have problems. And so he ended up inscribing, he had a gold ring, and on the inside of the ring, he had inscribed, "This too shall pass," as a reminder that when something was in front of him that was bad, he would just pause, look at his ring, look at the inscription as a reminder that whatever this is only happening here right at this moment. And it will pass. It will go away. And not to put much energy, don't make such rash decisions. Don't be reactive, be responsive. Those are two different ways of looking at things. Reactive is just an emotional charge you just hit something with, versus responsive is more thoughtful and intentional. And so I hope that's answering some of what your question was, but I think I just don't really stress too much anymore because, again, it's the basis of, I think, some wisdom I've been able to garner over my years. And again, whenever I need a little kind of juice, I just look out in the world for other people that have overcome, that have such incredible resilience, and I look to them for inspiration. And then I realize, yeah, I was right. It's all going to be okay.
How would you define wisdom?
I think wisdom is a collection of experiences and that are tested throughout time. And because of the time and tested, they've proven to be correct. Like these old, like old idioms that kind of exist, right? Like not doing things or don't do this, or you should do this, and you do this, you'll have a good and fruitful life. You don't do that, and I think that is a part of wisdom, but we collect those over time. But I think it requires someone to be in control of their emotional state in order to have wisdom. I hope that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think many people today are just in a constant state of reacting to the world. They're just almost like they're constantly emoting emotions and then reacting to anything that encounters them, positive and negative. And the negative can lead to very, very bad things when you react in a negative fashion, too overly emotionally charged.
I have one question. I just want to make sure my fan on my camera is on, just so that it doesn't like overheat halfway through. The question I was going to ask is that how different people put emotional investment into things that they're trying to pursue? That some people will try to take the path of overly adding emotion to something, whereas the way I do it is try to think about it more and try to understand it better alone and not with like other people. Because there's that, I don't know what the name of it is, but the idea that if you talk about something and it's not, and you haven't actually completed it, you can get the same satisfaction with talking about it before actually that would also happen when you complete it. So is it just a emotional investment sort of a thing?
Well, going back to that's funny because I used to do that when I was young, because you get that dopamine hit, like boom, just talking about it, and you've done nothing. So I actually don't really discuss anything anymore with people. I think that's wisdom, because I knew who I was before, and I know who I am today, and I know what works and what doesn't work. Again, it takes self-reflection. It takes accountability and ownership. Again, this goes back to the concept I was talking about, where I think most people are reactive, and they're not. I think a lot of people today, if we look from a societal aspect, are living more in a victim kind of mentality. Yeah. And when you live there, it's going to be very, very hard to move forward and achieve much. Being aggrieved all the time is because that's all you're seeing. And whatever our thoughts are, that's what we end up seeing. That's what manifests in front of us. Like, the test of that to prove that our thoughts will produce our reality is just look at the last time you got a brand new car. Then all of a sudden you're seeing that car everywhere. You ever do it, or just even do the test like, oh, I want to see an orange whatever. And then you just plant that seed in your head and you go out in the world and you'll see orange whatevers everywhere. And so now take that and then take that, like, I only want to see opportunity in my life. That's all I'm going to see is opportunity. And then your mind will fixate on seeing opportunity everywhere. And you process that. And so going back to like talking about like the aggrieved person, and it actually remind me what you asked before that.
Is that how the people who overly exert their emotions for something, is that their way of emotionally investing into something?
I think so, but that only gets them so far.
It's like temporary investment.
Well, look at like motivation is great, but it's really bullshit. That in order to achieve anything, you have to have discipline. You have to have clarity of mind, a true vision of what you want, and then you just apply consistent discipline and labor. And you can accomplish anything when you do that, really, but it's discipline. The motivation is bullshit, really. It feels good, like you're going to do that. But if your only fuel is just motivation and you have no discipline in the tank, you're not going very far. Because like, look at you doing this podcast. It takes a lot of effort. And I'm guarantee you're not always motivated.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, right? And so what does that take? It takes discipline, because you have a vision of what you want to achieve with this. I know you're playing long game here. So you've got a vision down the road of what you see, of where you see yourself. And in order to get there, you have to apply, it's like, I call it compounding labor. You're compounding, like you have compounding interest, you're compounding your labor and your time, the resources that you have that are at your disposal. And you're just putting them on every single day. Boom, boom. And it stacks up. And so that's how anything is accomplished. It's not luck. I think luck is manufactured by being present and out. If you're out in front of people, you're out doing things, that luck is just because it's an encounter that's going to happen because you've made yourself available.
Yeah, I see luck as just like prepared coincidences. You're just prepared.
Yeah,
you're just like
exactly.
So prepared for things.
Because you've taken action steps and now suddenly it would make sense. Now suddenly you're doing this and doing this and now you're in front of somebody who does exactly what you need.
One quote and then I have a question. It's from one of the chapters in your book, Decisions Determine Destiny, which is like the more prepared you are in everything else you do, the better you can make better decisions, which then will get you the life that you don't deserve, but the one that you earned.
Yeah, well, think about, my wife and I were watching, sometimes we like to watch these documentaries, and like true crime stuff is kind of interesting. I find it just fascinating, like some of the things, the crazy shit that people do. And this one was on the Ruby Franke case. Are you familiar with that? That really popular YouTuber? Anyways, like, they're like, she's living the dream, incredibly popular YouTuber, making millions of dollars. And then to go from that to now is incarcerated for 30 plus years for child abuse. Like, how do you go from that to here? What is happening? What is going on in your decision making, right? And it's decisions. It's complete. She made a series of decisions and then triple down on them at the poker table, all in on some of these like horrible, catastrophic decisions that led to now she's incarcerated for 30 plus years. Reputation destroyed. It's over. So decisions are very, very important. Like one of the biggest decisions you'll ever have in your life is whoever you're going to be with, who your spouse is going to be. That's a powerful, like almost probably one of the most important decisions you'll ever make is your spouse. And this is where it comes down to, you can't just approach, I think, intimacy or romance with just the fleeting carnal desires that you feel. It feels good. You also have to look at the person's value system, and you have to kind of think, not just you're playing long game and short game. Short game is you're having fun, she's this or that or whatever. But is she a mate because you're what you want, and you're going to grow and mature and season, and all these things are going to occur. And is that person going to be the right person for that you down the road? And is she going to be the companion you need to accomplish all the great things you want to accomplish? It's to be by your side, seeing you through all these things as you go and create and build your empire. Because that's where you're at as a young man. You're in the very early stages of empire building, which is great. You're kind of like the warrior out there fighting. You're moving yourself up through the ranks to become a general eventually, and eventually you'll become the king or emperor of everything of your empire. And so whoever is going to be your queen, so to speak, is a very important decision, man. It can like ruin people who you pick as a spouse, like ruin them. And so decisions are very important. And that is just one very basic one, which I think people really take for granted sometimes, is who are you going to pair up with? Yeah. And we all do. I mean, sometimes I guess very few people might be the person who doesn't, these are always perpetually single, but most people do tend to settle down, as they say. So that's so decisions are very important. Everything you make, I think, has to be made, not just what you're getting out of it here, but also what does it fit in to what you're saying long-term. Business is the same way. Like I have business partners, and I'm like very careful about who they are, because it's like a marriage as well. But in business, like, is this person going to be compatible? Are we going to be compatible that we can work together? And do we share a common vision for the future of the company? And instead of just like, oh, this is a great idea. I need this person right now to help me with X, Y, Z. And I'm going to put them in here and I can get there. But really, I don't really like them. I don't like their personality. I think that they're stupid or they have these issues. Well, that's a recipe for disaster eventually. They're not very good with money. Well, that's the last person you want, whether it's a spouse or a business partner. So, yeah. But again, those are very, very important decisions you have to make. But I think it requires someone to have thinking and a vision of their future and what they ultimately want.
There was on the Modern Wisdom podcast. He was with two other guys. I think the band that they're in is Underlord or something like that. I forgot the name of it, but I watched the entire thing. It's great. And one of the things that they mentioned is that because they're always on tour, because they're always on the road, and they're barely with their families, that they get this level. Like obviously they have wives, they have children and everything, but there's this level of intimacy that they get with their bandmates, because it's like you understand this person, you know who they are, you know all the different parts to it, and like especially since like there's a lot of bands that split up after a while, it's usually like you have to know the person really well. So how would you define, or what's your perspective on intimacy? Not like sexual intimacy, but like emotional intimacy.
It's important to know a lot about who you're going to be spending a lot of time with. And again, if you're attached to something, again, let's go back being at a band, right? Or being in a business. But being in a band is like being in a business anyway, because it essentially becomes a business, right? It's creating product, it's creating content, it's putting us out there. It's a way for them to make money, it's all that. And it's not just creative, but it is kind of a business. And so I think it's very important to know on the intimate level as best as you can, who you're going to be spending a lot of time with, because that person can have an influence on you. There's that old saying about you are the five closest people you spend most of the time with. And so it's important that, does that person share a lot of, like, for instance, I'll tell you an example of somebody I knew years ago had a business partner. Guy was wicked smart, his business partner. Wicked smart, but he had a very, very fatal personal flaw, in that he drank a lot and he liked to, mess around with the ladies, even though he was married.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so what ended up happening is that based on association, a very charming person. And so based on association, my friend ended up partying a lot more. Next thing you know, he's hanging out with women that weren't his wife, which then led to very catastrophic consequences. And so it's important to know, like, who am I going to be spending all my time with? Who are you really? So do I really ultimately really want to spend all this time with you? Because you are going to, some of that's going to come off onto me. So I do think that's important to have an intimate understanding of who your business partners are, or your people you can spend a lot of time with.
Yeah, this is a weird tangent. Like back in the 80s or 90s, they did a little experiment with people who were trying to apply to like Ivy League schools, or not Ivy. No. It's like Google or Amazon. It's a like big business, and what they did was typically interviews came in, and they'll have like an American person interviewing and everything, but instead they got someone from like Australia and brought them in as an interviewer who didn't know anything about Harvard or Yale or any of these Ivy League schools. So you'd get into the situation where the person's like, oh, I went to this school, and the person has no idea what those are. Now, obviously, now everyone knows what the most Ivy League schools are, but this is back when the internet was just starting out, so probably the 80s. And what was interesting is that some people, when the interviewer didn't know what that was, they didn't have anything else to back it up. They were just like, this is who I am because of a mask of something that they just put on top of. And either in the characters that you have in your stories or in the people that you met in your life, have you found there to be any people who would put masks on for people who they shouldn't have a mask on, like for their wives, for their partners, for people who should be emotionally vulnerable with and be like, this is actually who I am, but choose not to because they want to protect what they have?
Yeah, I mean, to all that, I think we all do in some regards. We all we're sometimes kind of a mask. We call it branding. It's my brand. It's who I am. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I can go deeper into that, but yeah, I think actually it's a trait that a lot of people do wear masks because they don't want. How many people are just completely unfiltered and raw and honest with everyone they just meet?
Well, I'm asking from the long-term relationships that they have, like not like obviously there's
they're God, I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, well, I guess you could say people are like that. They have things that maybe in their past or personal traits that they are ashamed of. Yeah, and maybe it's an addiction or something, and they can't get past it, so they're constantly wearing a mask or lying or hiding that from their spouse or friends for years and years and years and years and years, and you just don't. You come to realize and then if it's ever exposed, like I never really knew that person. I can't believe that happened. Right. As far as in the book, and I don't think I have anybody that is that. Connor has a little bit of that, and I think you'll see some of it kind of displayed as the series goes on. That he's quite a dark individual that once given power, but then, was he always like deliberately hiding kind of his darkness, or is it just because it comes down to desperation and power? That once he's been given a lot of power, he's able to not be concerned with what people are going to say because he's there at the top, and then as was it the Dexter thing, the dark passenger comes out because he doesn't need to shield it from anybody anymore, and he can be who he really is. Yeah, but I think we all have elements of that, like initially, but do we hold on to those, throughout the relationships with friends and family and spouses? I'm sure there are people that do.
It's a weird tangent.
There was what's this guy's name? I can't remember it. He's all over podcasts. Former CIA field officer.
Oh yeah, he has like a lot of, he's like a big hair and everything. Yeah.
He was talking about like on somebody. It might have been on Chris's show, Modern Wisdom. It was somebody's, just like and he was talking about how he was trained in order to create an asset. And once you know you've got them as an asset, and I'm paraphrasing a lot of what he said. I might be butchering this, but this just comes from my memory. Is when you get, this goes into like the wearing the mask. Essentially, you get them to reveal a little bit more about who they really are, to where they're now sharing with you something that maybe they've only told a handful of people about. Like they're now letting you into their inner circle. So now the masks and the costume comes off, and like, this is who I am, right? And let me tell you about this. And then you know you've got them, he says. Then you know you're going to be able to like use this person. I thought that was interesting. How they kind of dig down, and they're taught how to do that, how to communicate with people, how to interact to get that confidence. Yeah, that was fascinating. You should get him on your show. He's a fascinating individual.
I know, but I have to be a lot bigger, not just 177 subscribers.
You never know. You have to ask.
Yeah,
I ask people all the time. And I knock on doors a lot, and a lot of times the doors don't open, but occasionally the door opens. Like when I first started out writing, the book with the end was out. It was doing incredibly well. It was up in the charts, like 1 and 2, constantly going back and forth in different genres and things like that. Categories, I mean, on Amazon. And there was this one guy, Doug Richardson, New York Times bestseller. His book Wired, I was competing with his book Wired. We kept swapping spots. So finally I said, fuck it, I'm going to reach out to him. Like he's a New York Times bestselling author. I'm a newbie. I don't know what I'm doing. I had no idea what I was doing. I reached out to him and said, hey, do you have any advice for me? He responded. Come to find out, we're both in San Diego. He then invites me out to lunch. He buys lunch because he's making a shit ton of money. And he gives me, just unloads all this advice, all this valuable information about publishing and what I should do and this and that. And we're still friends today. And that's just because I didn't assume he was not going to say yes. I just sent out emails. I sent out a lot of emails, cold emails to people. And he replied. And his advice was really valuable. In fact, it was him helping me that then prompted me to do the exact same thing. If anyone ever asks for help and wants to leverage my knowledge, I'm there. Like, I'll help you. I'll jump on a call. I'll reply. What do you need to know? Because I want everyone to succeed. I'm not a fixed pie person. There's plenty of abundance in the world, and everyone can have a seat at the table if they want to. So yeah, you never know, man. Put an email out there.
Weird tangent. There's a quote from, again, another one that I'm doing all the quotes that I've gotten up to but not past yet. In terms of the chapter, this one's from Aristotle. Fear is pain arising from the anticipation of evil. Would you say a lot of problems that people have usually stems from anticipation, or anticipating what they think that might happen rather than just letting whatever happens happen?
I think we shouldn't make a lot of decisions based on fear, because fear is imaginary, right? It is. It's all in our heads. Was it Frank Herbert at Dune, the author of Dune, always had the quote that fear is the mind killer. I thought that was always really cool. It's always stuck with me when I read these books when I was young. And it's true, because it doesn't exist except in our minds. And that's why it's important to calm your mind as much as possible and don't make decisions based from fear. You should make, I don't believe decisions should ever be made from fear, from lack, from insecurity. It only should be made from very proactive thoughts and visions of what you want. You're making decisions on something, you have a goal, and you make a decision on, for instance, like going back to fear could be not contacting people because you fear rejection. Like, who gives a shit? Like just contact people, whatever that is. And so, like, go talk to the girl who cares? You might get rejected, but if you do it enough, someone's going to say yes. Do it enough, you're going to get a phone number. And so, so what stops people? They get paralyzed because they imagine something that hasn't occurred, and then they attach and they feel it emotionally. So intellectually, they go, oh, I'm going to get rejected. And then go, oh, that would be painful. I don't like the rejection. And it hasn't even happened. And so our thoughts can really produce like true emotional states. And this is why that's why you get, when you look at like the works of Neville Goddard or Dr. Joe Dispenza and all those people, that's why when they're talking about to create a better life, or what they call the law of assumption or law of, attraction or whatever, to manifest things, you take that thought, an imagined future that's positive, and then you put with it emotion. How do you feel when you're in possession of this? How do you feel when you have that? You see it, then you put the emotion to it, and that's all you ever do. And eventually then that leads you across what they call bridges of incident, I think they say. And eventually, again, it's those we were talking about earlier, like all these, it's not luck, it's just a series of these all these coincidences start to happen. There's like bridges of incident, because you're having your vision, you see intellectually what you want, then you put the emotion as if you already have it, and then suddenly these things start to appear. But that can work also in reverse, where you're constantly living in fear and you're putting all that emotion behind it, and then there'll be the time it does happen. And you go, see, I told you that was going to happen. I told you, see, look what happened. I said that was going to happen. Like, well, no shit, man. You created that outcome by thinking this way. And I think it's like, by the way, everyone's going to have rejection. Everyone's going to fail. Everyone's going to get punched in the face. Like, speaking of quotes, I have that later on in another book. I talk about Tyson's quote, right? About getting punched in the face. Everyone is, I can't remember it right now. But it's a great quote from Mike Tyson about something. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, which is true, by the way. And it's, but who are you in that moment you get punched in the face? That's the thing. Who are you in the moment that you fail? Who are you in the moment that tells everybody your character? Who are you when the bad shit happens? That says everything about somebody. I want to see somebody when they fail, because it tells me a lot about them. I told that to my daughters, like when tests started meaning things in school, like elementary doesn't mean anything, whatever. When they start taking, when they got to, a level in their education where a test was important, because now the grades mean something, right? Like who are you when you fail a test? I've always been, and I tell them it's okay to fail. Then what do you do with that in that moment? And so I've been really privileged to kind of walk them through that thought process, and they've done really, really well, I think. Like, I sit down with them and I'm not mad. I'm like, okay, so you failed the test. All right, so let's diagnose what happened. Don't give me excuses. Why do you think you failed? And most of the time it's always funny. It's like, well, I don't think I studied enough. Okay, that's a good check. Make sure we study more. Or I don't think I quite understood something. Okay, well, that means you calmly, without being emotionally charged, and not coming from it, I'm a victim, my teacher hates me, all this bullshit sometimes one of my daughter likes to pull out. Oh, my teacher doesn't like me. Like, what? No, that's not true. You diagnose the problem, because now it's a learning opportunity. It's reframing something that happened. And that failing that test isn't going to live with you forever. But the lessons you take from it will and can have the potential to be with you forever.
Do you have any stories from the Marines or diving or being a bodyguard that kind of tie into that?
I can tell you a real spicy one if you want.
Sure, yeah.
As far as being like completely calm in a moment when you're like, what is happening to me right now? So I'm working on a detail. It's like by the way, it's my very, very first protective detail. Actually, maybe I shouldn't tell this story. All right, so I'll just say the client was very high up in a government somewhere, okay, in the Middle East, and so and she's a woman, and so I'm being asked. So when you first work in a protection detail, you're not like you Kevin Costner out there running around. You're typically stuck in a hallway watching a post, standing there for 12 hours. You're just doing static posts, that kind of stuff, or working in a command post answering phones. You're not out there being a badass. So I was literally sitting in front of hotel room doors for a long time. And then finally the detail leader was like, hey, listen, we sent the advanced team ahead. So we were short some field agents. So I'm like, hey, I'd love for you to like run protection with me tonight for the protectee. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Fine. He goes, all right. So what I want you to do is meet her at the hotel room. This was the Beverly Hills Hotel. And so it's 2 stories you've ever been there. So they had rented the entire second floor of the Beverly Hills Hotel. Every room was booked just for them and their entourage. And so I go and meet her at the doorway, and I'm walking her down, not allowed to look at her, walking her down, get to the elevator. I hit the elevator door, kind of look away from her so she can go on. Then I kind of step and back in, and then the elevator doors close. Next thing I know, I feel this hand on me, and she's groping me.
Oh,
I know, right? I'm like, okay, what do I do? And so I'm just like, in that moment, this comes down to like, do I react or I just respond? And so I just calmly just stood, took a step even closer to the elevator door. So now my nose is almost touching it just to be out of reach. She's still trying to touch me. And then ding, we get doors open. I just step out, and then she walks out. And so it was interesting is at that moment, I'm like, these are decisions. Like, what do I do in this moment? And I'm thinking to myself, like, quickly, do I turn around and engage her? No, I don't want to do that. And then I'm like, I don't want to do that because I'm not supposed to look at her. But then also at the same time, she's not supposed to be doing that to me at the same time either. But then there was fear in me, like, what if I say something, I could lose my job? It's my first detail. It's like all these things are running through my head. So later I ended up telling the detailer what happened. So I didn't make a scene is kind of the point I'm making. Like, I kept my composure, I remained calm. I tried to remove myself as best I could. Fortunately, the door opened up right then, and then I have no idea if I was cornered in a room what I was going to do. But I think so. I managed to pull back on kind of a lot of discipline I'd gotten and garnered in the Marine Corps, and just kept my composure, kept my emotional state calm, be very cool, calm, and just like, this is what I'm going to do, even though my thoughts are going a million miles an hour. And I just remained very, very calm instead of reacting and getting all childlike and huffy and righteous or whatever the hell. But it was a still remember. I just don't want to go on and like you say exactly who it was, but let's just say she's very high up.
how do you not get the complacency of standing in a spot for like 12 hours on a 12-hour shift?
Taking caffeine pills helps a lot. But this is, by the way, I think for me, they would sometimes allow, some guys would say they wanted a chair and they allow them to sit down. Like, you can't do that. So I was that guy. By the way, that's why I think Chris, the detailer, picked me up, because I was always standing, like just standing. And they'd give us little breaks here and there, but I was always standing because I felt it was important to have my composure. And versus going from standing, where you're definitely more alert when you stand, to sitting, you're just not as alert. The body posture isn't there for alertness. So I felt it was important, and I've always been very diligent about doing a good job. It's very important to me to make sure that I do a very good job, and that I'm there for this singular purpose. And it's very simple. Not to say that it's not difficult, like you're saying, to be alert for 12 hours. But I've always been disciplined that way. Like, okay, this is my job. I distill things down to the basic thing is to make sure this. So I have to be alert. I have to be on top of my game. So how do I do that? So so in order to do that, I would make sure that I was, physically conditioned. I got plenty of sleep. Those kinds of things that kind of add up into it. It's just, I just always find it's very important for me to do a good job.
What about like the boredom that sets in of like doing the same thing over and over? And then like your mind starts wandering, or like how do you keep yourself? Because I know like even the White House Marines have to stand in the same spot for hours on end, and then they get relieved off their post. Like, I mean, for the Marines at the Arlington National Cemetery, like they get to walk back and forth, but there's still like that's still cream of the crop. How do you combat the boredom of monotony?
I would maybe this is where my storytelling thing. I would like create imaginary things in my head. Again, maybe that was, but then I was also constantly thinking of my own life in a positive way, like things that I wanted, and I would play things out, like, well, let's do this. I'm going to do that. That sounds great. That'd be wonderful. And so I'd keep my mind active that way, just by constantly thinking of good things, not boring things.
Do you have any questions? And I'm going to change the topic a little bit, unless you had a question you wanted to ask.
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, keep going.
Another quote that you had, other things may change us, but we start and end with family. What's your perspective on raising a good family?
One, I love my family very much. It is everything. I think so often people will put other things in front of, it's like the person who becomes the workaholic. Like, it's important to provide, clearly. So you have a job or you create a business and things like that so you can provide for them. But then what is that? Having money and having wealth or whatever is relative. Like, what do you really need? The basic functions of living. You need all right, so I got a roof over their head. They get food. They have access to healthcare and entertainment and all these things. Then people start scaling that up. Okay, the 4,000 square foot house is enough. We need a 6,000 square foot house. Like, so I think people can get lost. I think they lose the focus of what's important, and everything does, for me, really begin and end with family. So I try to keeping that as my main goal is having a happy and healthy family that I always want to be connected with, that I want to live a long time and know my grandchildren eventually, hopefully like truly know them as they grow, that I need to keep that as my priority. While I work hard, I also won't allow work to a point if it's going to jeopardize my relationship or jeopardize moments with them. So they're always at the forefront. I think people can get lost in they're working and then they pour everything into the job to the point that it starts to, this isn't to say you can't, oh, I've got to go here, I got to go on a business trip. Of course, and there's certain things you have to do because that job does provide. But then where is it that people break their vow to their family and now they spend nothing but time at the office or time doing whatever their hobbies are, doing whatever, versus being with their family? Like, do you really can't go to every ball game? Like, really, for your kid? Really? Like, I find that hard to believe. Of course, you just don't make them a priority. And that hits people hard. That people would say, no, they do. That's why they're doing this job and they're working 7 days a week and they can never go to Tommy's ball games. But I find that to kind of be a bullshit argument. It's like the person who says they're too busy to go work out. I know that now because I make it working out's a priority for me. So I go make sure I have time to go to the gym. I make sure that it's part of what I do. And the reason is because I have these goals, and I make sure that in order to obtain those goals, I have to have a certain level of physical fitness. I have to have a certain level of health. That's why I quit drinking, and it's not because I had a problem. It's because I realized that it's poison. And over time, it's toxic to the system. And and by the way, what's interesting is ever since I've quit, I've been more productive. I've had healthier relationships. I created one business that in and of itself produces 6 figures. And that all came from just being able to have more energy, more clarity of thought, and then leverage that energy to creating another business. This was back in 2022. I started it. And that came from not drinking. I'm telling you right now, right? If there's anything people get from this interview, I'm not sure this is supposed to be going down this road. It's like, quit drinking, really. Like, it's, to the extent, I maybe some people can have a drink here and there. I think but drinking becomes like, like when I was growing up, like I was in Marine Corps, it's on, man. Like, you're drinking, your whole weekend's just consumed by consuming. And it robs you, I think, of your health and your mind and your future in some regards. But yeah, family is everything that I work toward. It's my main, when I make decisions with my family at the forefront. Whether it's business, money, everything.
At what point are you able to say, I guess, what point in your life were you able to say, I don't have to work all the time, that I can now spend time with my family? Because at least the way I see it is that some people, they get too caught up in trying to be perfect at work that they don't make time for their family, but it's also because their work is also really important to them. Like, at what point were you able to like diversify, or was it just that when you got enough like passive income that you're like, if I miss a couple hours here or a couple hours there, I can spend that time with my family?
I'll say this, and no one ever taught me this or even said this to me. And I think there's a lot of great information out there today. And I'll just gear this toward young people. These are the years, or I'll gear it toward young men right now to say that. These are the years, if you're in your 20s, you'd be working your ass off. You have no encumbrances, really. Most young men in their 20s they're not in any kind of relationships. In fact, actually, these are the years that you're really laying a solid foundation for your empire building. It's right now, because you have all the time in the world, because when you do have a family, you have a spouse and this family, you have to carve out time for them if you want to have a healthy and happy family that you're connected to. Otherwise, you're just there on paper, and they have, every now and then you go and do photo shoots with them. And everything looks good, but really what's happening? Have you created do you have a happy and harmonious, a good word, home? And we all want that, I think. And I think that there's time and places, and I really wish they taught these things in some regards in schools. Like for, young people, these are the years. And by the way, I do think men and women are different like that. I think men have a little bit longer runway to be working hard and building their empire, than say a woman does. And so I think these are the years to do it. And then once you've got that, you've already created a nice income. Then you can start, these things start shifting. So you don't have to work as many hours anymore because you've already got a lot of income coming in, because you invested that time in youth instead of partying all the time, into creating opportunity, creating income streams. So then again, this takes very disciplined, forward thinking, which I bet you have that. And so then when you're in your 30s, now you're settling down and you're still working hard, but now you can carve out some time and you're spending quality time. Because that's all kids really want, is time. I've really come to notice that with my daughters, is they remember the moments and they don't remember the gadgets and the toys. They remember the time. And so if you're going to go through the effort of having a family, then spend with them. Spend that time with them. And so start early if you can to create your empire, to create your wealth or create your income streams young. So then you have the ability that you can carve out some time to spend with them. Because I'll tell you, when it's all said and done, the old adage, when you're laying on your deathbed, all that money doesn't mean anything anyway. All you care about is who's around you, who's with you in those final moments. And was it Marcus Aurelius? Was it Memento Mori? I think he talks about. Well, essentially, that's talking about, in a nutshell, it's about knowing that we're all going to die. And I think it's important. I know it sounds, you think about it, by the way, you do think about it more when you're like my age. we were talking about it. We were at an event the other day. People were like, oh yeah, I think about of course, because we're actually that much closer to it, right? If we live barring some accident, we're actually way closer to our death than our birth now. And so you do think about your own mortality. But I think if people when they're in their 20s thought about the mortality, you would probably live your life a little differently. You might make different decisions. I'm not saying living in a constant state of security and fear that you don't want to hurt yourself. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that that one day you're going to be laying on your deathbed. And so knowing that, who do you want around you? All right, so how do I get those people around me? Make sure that I create great relationships with my family. I have great relationships, like genuine relationships, that they're going to be there for me as I'm breathing my last breaths. And so that takes mainly an investment in time. So how am I able to do that? I'm able to do that. So I'm going to start early so we can live comfortably, and then I'll still be making money in those later years, but I don't have to put all the effort in. Because creating businesses, it's always the startup is always the hardest. That's where all your time is dedicated. So if you create businesses like in your 20s, like you are, man, that foundation is there by the time, and there's solid income coming in that you can carve out time to be with your spouse, to be with your kids, and you won't have to worry. What's the money for anyway? So now the money's there so that you have the time. So it's not, I guess I would ask the person, what is more important to you, money or relationship? So if you take your early years and you create solid income streams, now you have the money to give you the freedom to spend the time. So it's not about, so you don't have to worry about making more money, because that's you got the money so you can have the time. You have the freedom. That's what ultimately, when I was talking with someone on Saturday night, we like to do these, I'm not sure if you do them. You ever do these thought experiments? What if I had $200 million? What would I do with it? You ever done those? It's fun. I think everyone should try that, by the way. You get to see who you are as a person. What would you buy with that money? What would you do with it? And so we had these amounts, because he was asking me, he's like, so what is your number? And I'm like, oh, this is fun. I've done this before. And everything came down to, and it's always been for me, freedom. I don't want to acquire money. I want to acquire my own freedom.
Well, freedom, is it also like emotional availability? So you're not always invested in one thing. Now you can be invested in many things.
Of course, because you're free to think about other things besides always hunting after in desperation more money. So if you build that when you can, we don't have to be as emotionally available to people because you're over here in your youth building the foundation for these income streams, or whatever they're going to be, getting the education to get the career, whatever it is, or creating a business. And people, I keep talking about businesses, is what I do. But if your 20s is where you're supposed to be getting the education so you can go on and get that career that you've wanted, whatever that is, that's where you're investing that to get that. But yeah, I think it's all about, I think this comes back to the family, and family can be extended. Family can be friends too. I consider friends like family.
Going back a little bit, what would you say would make a harmonious family? So you mentioned that a little earlier, that you want your family to have harmony.
So I think a harmonious family comes down to decisions we talked about earlier. So make sure you pick a good spouse that shares your values. People always say, opposites attract, like personalities. It's not about personalities. What people are attracted to in somebody ultimately, which once you get past like that initial, I think, attraction physically, you look at them like, oh, they're hot, whatever that is. And you've got whatever that chemistry is from that level, on a physical, intimate level. It's a value system. Do you share? I think relationships that can stand the test of time is having I'm probably going to be overusing this word today. It's foundation. To have that strong foundation for the relationship is that you share the same values with them. And you have to be very stern on those, I think. If you compromise because you want to get this person you really like, so you will be a little Gumby, flexible with kind of your values. Well, eventually, once you get them, then you're going to want to go revert back to your value system, right? Well, now you're not compatible anymore because you kind of wore the mask, like we were talking about earlier, in order to get the person. Now you've got the person, and now suddenly like, oh, they were like this, and now they're like this. I can't believe they think like I can't believe they think that way. You're like, well, that's how they've always thought. They just hid it from you. And so I think this is where honesty should be. People should be very honest in their dating lives when they're young. Like, this is who I am. This is what I want. I want to have kids, or whatever that is. And then that person quickly can make an assessment where they want to continue on or not. And I think coming up with that stuff right away. So value system. So my wife and I we've shared the same value system our entire lives. And and as far as we even get down to kind of the roles of kind of, she very, very much is, I guess, I would say, like, not like 1950s traditional wife, not like that. She's definitely very traditional in kind of the roles. And like, as soon as she was very hardworking, she made a lot of money before we had kids. But the second she was holding our daughter, I should say, I'm sorry. She looked at me, and I still remember that I came by the nursery and she was in there. I think it was like day 3 or something. We're home. And she's like, I'm never going back to work. I'm like, oh, really? She goes, no, you'll figure it out. I'm like, yeah, I'll figure it out. I mean, dude, it took like 6+ figures off the table, like gone. And again, this is where kind of like I always kind of like, I look at the situation, okay, good, I'll figure it out. It's okay. I got this. And she trusted in me, and she always gave me that confidence because she looked at me and says, you'll figure it out. You always do. I'm like, you're right, I will. And I have. I figured it out. She never, ever went back to never went back to work. That's 17 years ago. She stepped away and just never went back. And it's like, she had her success, a very professional businesswoman, did very well, stepped away to become just an incredible mother. Again, so having those, like, I guess, roles, I could say, maybe can help create harmony in the family or in the household. Not being financially stressed definitely does too, right? So being disciplined with spending, and so you have what you have, because that will definitely disrupt family. If you're not really good with your money. But so having that, and then communication is key, man.
Is that one of the problems with youth, any option that like when it comes to like dating or getting into relationships that any option looks like a good option. And then once you like try to show your best self, but like the best self, not just like just a good part, but the best self. And then you end up putting on a mask. So then when like the touchy feelies go away, you start taking off the mask, and then the person that you're with isn't exactly who you wanted to be with, but then you're already in this committed, you're already in a relationship. So now you're trying to change them, which then causes problems because you're trying to change them into who you want them to be and not really who they are.
One, you can never change anybody. People just, it's hard enough to control ourselves, much less we think the audacity to think that we're going to change somebody is fantasy land. You can't change anybody. So you have to remove that. And so I think looking back at the success I look at, and I've been married before I met my current wife, very short, very hot and heavy, whatever that relationship was, for all the wrong reasons, for all just having fun. And it just was a complete disaster. But a great learning opportunity, and I came from that not upset about marriage or upset about, some people do, like they blame men or they blame women for whatever relationship sucks. All men suck. No, that's not true. Or all women suck. No, that's not true. And I never had that. I always believed in the institution of marriage. I think it's honorable. I love it. I think you have that, and you have children that are produced in a nice home. You create a great society, I believe. That's just, again, and maybe that's controversial today, but I think it's important. And I do love the institution of marriage. And I always believed that even after my first marriage didn't work. I didn't look at institution of marriage as a failed system or something that was antiquated, not ready for the modern age. But I just said I still respected it. And I think because of that, I had that attitude, I was able to find this incredible woman later on who also shared those same things. So yeah, I think it's important to communicate who you are right away, what you want right away, and let that person, I mean, specifically when you're into the dating scene to actually find a mate. There's dating where you're just having fun. Then there's dating like, I got to take this serious now. Like, I'm looking, all right, I definitely don't want to be 60 years old and having a kid. So, right. So then there's whatever that time window is, then I think you need to be like absolutely honest about what you see your future is, how you raise your kids. Like, all those things are very important. I think you should just communicate that with somebody. I think what helps a young man, though, this is getting into a young man, is you'll have a lot more options too if you have financial means. Your playing field is going to be woo. You have a lot more to choose from because you're providing, and that's resources. So that's why I think it's important for young men to go out and build and create and establish that. So then they'll go and then find that woman they want a brand new. This sounds all very kind of like traditional kind of things. I know, again, it can be controversial to some people, but that's why I think it's important. And, but you know what that does too for a young man is that when you're out there working hard and you're building your life, you're creating this, you build so much confidence. Yeah, because you're out there you're physically taking care of yourself, you're mentally taking care of yourself, and then you're setting yourself up for success. And lots of wonderful things will spring from that by you taking your 20s and building something.
Is that how you would, the difference between being a boy and being a man, is that your ability to provide and the amount of responsibility you can take on?
I think so, yeah. But then I think there's seasons, I kind of touched on them, seasons in a man's life too. Like I think I said you were kind of in the warrior phase. How old are you?
21.
Yeah. So you're a warrior right now. That's what you are. You're kind of this warrior phase is what I call it. You're out there on the battlefield and you're just doing whatever you can. You're alone, kind of, right? But you're out there fighting and you're conquering, so to speak, as a warrior. And then now is the time that, again, then that will transition into you become kind of a general or, and that whatever that is, that now you've established some things that are solid and real. And they're actually producing for you, which then gives you what? When those resources come in, it gives you a lot of availability, gives you access to places you may not have gone before. It gives you access to assets and things you can buy. It gives you a greater availability for women to choose from. Like these things all happen once you enter that stage. Then you go into the stage where you're in the general, and then you go into what I think is, now it's really established. Now the business is really big. The family's there. Now you're kind of becoming kind of the king. Now you've got an empire now you're overseeing that includes your businesses or your career, and then your family and your household. Now that's kind of your empire, so to speak. And then the later years, I think when the wisdom starts to seep in and now you're wanting to share that knowledge, now you end up becoming like the elder statesman later on, where you're able to then you're still kind of the head of the castle, but now your children have moved on, which is fine. But now you're the elder statesman, that the patriarch, so to speak, that now their husbands or their spouses will come to you for advice. You're there at the head with your wife to share your wisdom with everybody. Those are just different phases. You're like the 50-year-old guy is never the warrior. You shouldn't be the warrior, for fuck's sakes. Oh my God. If you're having to be the warrior again, maybe you've really you've had some major mistakes in your life and you've like been demoted down. You have to go back on the battlefield again. Now, it can happen and you can be successful doing it, but you don't want to have to go be a 50-some-year-old warrior again. It's very difficult. The thing is, you've got a lot of runway right now to take big risks. Like put a lot on the table and lose. That's okay. Because you have all that runway to make it up again. So you can bet big on certain things. And again, and fail miserably. Who cares? You just learn from that. It's later in life where you can't take those risks. And because those risks can be like catastrophic financially for you. Take huge, gigantic risk at a later age.
It's actually something I was talking about with one guy, and then it turned out to be another person also had the same thing. Which is, and these people like, I wouldn't say they're almost 30. Wouldn't say like the best quality people that I know, but they were talking about how they don't think it's possible to find happiness anymore. That they're just like, happiness doesn't exist anymore. Like you can't obtain happiness. And then they also mentioned like a little later in the conversation that they like went on parties when they're in their early 20s. They'll go on raves, so they'll do this stupid thing, that stupid thing. And I'm thinking that must be somewhat connected to why you don't want to be happy anymore, because you got that high of the fake happiness and then replace that with what should be real happiness, which is that life isn't always exciting and that the monotony is probably more enjoyable than the actual excitement, because this is what builds everything to that second place.
So I want to add on that. I want to jump on that. One, I don't buy that. That's bullshit. Because if you don't think there's happiness, then you're that like looking for the orange thing we talked about earlier. If you believe that, and that's all you think, there's no happiness is gone, then you're never going to see happiness. But if you believe there's happiness exists, and that you can be surrounded by it, it will be in your life. I don't know how else to explain it. It's that fucking simple. But then, like, my daughter was having, my older daughter was having some issues with some stuff, and she talked, again, this happiness thing came up. And I would go, you think I'm always happy? I said, it's not about happiness, because happiness is fleeting. It's an emotional state that you feel it, and then 5 minutes, I could be happy now, and 5 minutes later, not be happy. So you don't hang your hat on happiness. You hang your hat on fulfillment.
Fulfillment, okay.
I think, and when I explained this to her, it was after her prom. And I'd never had that conversation with her. And whatever the reason, it wasn't wrong that I hadn't. It was the timing was perfect. And she heard that. I said, happiness is a very selfish kind of thing. I'm going to go out and try to make myself happy. And I'm going to do all these things. Fulfillment comes from doing something that's bigger than yourself. You go out in the world and you create something, you do something not for yourself or something that's big and grand. You do something that you have a dream, you have a goal, and you just go for it. And if you get there, you'll go, it feels good. And that's what fulfillment is. You ever sat and you've done something you've accomplished something that's impressive, you go, It's not happiness. That's fulfillment. There's a difference in that how it feels. And it's lasting. And it's there. And in the doing of creating, of going after that, and then accomplishing that is where confidence is built. People try to say, I'm going to sit and create a vision board, or I'm going to sit and do affirmations in the mirror about how great I am. That doesn't work. Confidence comes from doing. And then ultimately being victorious in the doing. because you will. If you just keep at it, you'll find victory, or you'll accomplish that, whatever that is. But that fulfillment, that is like being being a parent. You think I'm happy all the time being a parent? No, it's hard. It's expensive, but it's so fulfilling. Like, I love it. Like, I look at my daughters and I see so much in them, and I just want so much for them. And I literally, that's the very few people I'd die for. I'd lay my life down for them because they're my blood. But it's fulfilling to be a parent. It's not always happy. It's not rainbows and unicorns. Are you kidding me? And so, yeah, happiness does exist, but I don't think people should be seeking happiness. You should be seeking fulfillment. So doing things that are bigger than yourself, and or doing things not for yourself, doing them for other people. You ever given a great gift? How does that feel?
It depends on the gift.
Yeah, but you give something of yourself to somebody else, and they receive it. There's a feeling there, like that feels good. Or if you've done something and they say you've given it, this, I'll just speak for myself. I've done things, given people advice, like help with books. And then they've gone on and written great books, and they're doing really well and they're enjoying it. And I'm watching from afar their career. I feel so amazing. It feels so amazing that all I needed to do was take a little bit of my time to help. They had to do all the heavy lifting, but they were able to kind of leverage my wisdom or expertise. And now they've got something over here. It feels really good. That is, you can't replace that. That's not happiness. That's just, I don't know. That's what I would tell people. Don't seek happiness, seek fulfillment in life.
I actually do it a different way. I don't see happiness as fleeting, but rather happiness is peace, and peace is happiness. If I can find myself to be more peaceful, even when everything's chaotic, then I will be happy. Because that's you could have let's say there's like a war going on, but if I'm just like in a peace of mind, not in a way where I'm feeling neutral, where I have zero emotions, but just like despite everything else going on, I can still find something that keeps me peaceful, that keeps my mind from not lashing out.
I hear what you're saying. I guess I would assign that from so now we're creating a basis for what words mean and define. I love that. So I would classify, for me, I classify that as contentment. We're having, Saturday, I had some great conversations on Saturday. Some people think they don't like the word contentment, but I feel very content. Because they're like, well, what's going on? I'm like, I'm very happy. And again, then when I would define it later, I was very content. And so that's what it is. So I walk around just feeling good. Like, I feel good. And maybe maybe those people you were talking to, I don't know, I wonder what's going on in them that they can't feel that.
Well, I was actually going to say that the peacefulness now, I think when I get to like your age, then I'll probably want the fulfillment, because I'll already have the amount of peace that I need in order to be able to tell everyone, to be able to help other people without putting in the emotions. And if they want the emotions, like you can, there's like logical statements like, oh, you should be doing this. And then there's like the emotional side. Why should you be doing this? This is like the personal experience that built onto that. So like right now, if I can build the peace so that anytime something happens, no matter like someone yells at me, something happens, or something that I never planned for happens, I can default to peace and then think of it from a non-emotional way, while also still considering like all the emotional aspects to it.
How do you get there though? How do you get there? Having that. I know there's certain things I do in order to get that state of mind. How do you get that state of mind?
Finding whatever works best for the moment that I'm in. Like sometimes I might be going outside for a walk, but right now it's like probably gonna be 100 degrees today. So I'm gonna start sweating if I start walking, which then will just make me feel worse, because now I've got all the sweat, and then I go inside and now it's all cold and that doesn't work. So usually it's like, what would be best in this moment? Did I drink enough water today? Did I eat something? Did I get enough sleep? Like last night, I got 12 hours of sleep. I don't get 12 hours of sleep any day. So that's
why you feel really happy right now.
Yeah. I can feel happy even when I get like 7 hours of sleep, as long as it's like good quality sleep. Like the last month, I probably had like 2 or 3 nights that was like good quality sleep. Everything else would be like, I wake up all groggy. I'm like, it's 5 a.m. I woke myself up, don't have to have an alarm. And I'm like, why am I awake? I need an extra hour to sleep. And it's like, I've got stuff to do and I don't want to sleep. But also it's like I need sleep in order to get that done. So like there's the basic stuff, food, water, sleep, and usually like sunshine or something. Like I have to go for like be in the sun right now. Like right now, my room is all blacked out and everything. So like all the artificial lights are not helping. But the second I get out of here, I'm going for a drive. I'm going to go do some stuff. So it's like finding, like, can I tolerate being in here for another 2 hours? Absolutely. But like the second I get out of here, it's like, well, what's the best thing to do? I need sunshine. I mean, I don't need to get a tan, but I do need to get some sunshine. It's finding whatever, like, or exercising. Like, should I go to jiu-jitsu right now? Yeah, probably, because I haven't talked to anyone today. Socialize. What's that little one thing that will keep me from going insane? And it's usually just one thing, just the one next step. And then when that's done, it's like, oh yeah, maybe it took like 3 hours, and maybe I could have worked on something for 3 hours, but I do feel happier, and now I can get back to the thing I can do. Because especially like editing and stuff, the way I edit things is a direct reflection of my emotional state. If I'm mad, or if I'm angry, if I'm really tired, I'll edit really quickly, and it'll be like jump cuts all over the time. But if I don't feel as anxious, then it'll be better edits. It'll be better timed. It'll flip to the next person better. I'll be able to add more stuff. Like I'm not rushing it.
Oh, that makes sense. It's your frame of mind, of course. Yeah. But what that takes, and I applaud you, for being, being your age. This is, that is for being. That's a level of maturity and awareness. I think sometimes young people don't have is understanding, and awareness is very important. It's also an awareness of who you are. You, right, and what makes you tick, and so that's really good.
Well, it's also like no one else is going to understand me. And if I've never dated anyone before, but if I ever do, and I want to eventually, but if I ever do, I don't want them to take on all the stuff I'm going through if I can't explain to them why I feel a certain way at a certain time. Because what most of the people I know who, like a lot of the people, even on the podcast, a lot of people I know have gone through like a divorce, or they've gone through like some partner cheating on them or something. I'm like, I don't want to do that. If I can avoid it, I don't want that to happen, and I don't want to attract someone who would want to do that. So it's like,
I would say this: I wouldn't leave. Like, by the way, you can have what might seem like a great relationship, and that could still happen. The point I'm making is that don't come into any relationship with that fear that it could happen. Doesn't say that it may not, but don't always have. Again, I'm a huge believer in our thoughts will create our reality. That don't even have that in your thoughts. So that if it ever happens, you're like fucking shocked to like, it's, oh my God. But if it's always there, present, I don't know. I think sometimes we end up creating these things. Because sometimes people will not want to go into a relationship because they think this person will cheat eventually. Like, what is that? Now you're denying yourself that incredible relationship that you'll have based on something that doesn't even exist. It's in your imagination. Now you can bring it forth into reality maybe one day if that's all you focus on, but it may not happen. And and this is where it's important, I think, just to always just, again, you can't control people. So always just be your genuine self. And then that person gets to decide whether they want to be with you or not. So people will try to cling on to things in relationships with people. They'll cling on to them. Instead of make yourself so valuable, there's no way they would cheat or ever want to leave. Right? Like the only thing you can control is yourself. And so if you make yourself high value, so to speak, where there's like, but people are going to make choices based on a lot of things. But if you're just jealous and weird and do this or do that, well, people are out there. Yeah, I mean, I do think I would not want to be dating today. I tell you that. It just seems like I think there just seems to be, I think, a false sense of options for people. I think people think they have more options than they really do in some regard. I think some people are getting a lot of validation from social media.
Yeah, no, that's true.
People have gotten because they had to, like, in the analog days where you had to go out somewhere, and that only there could you get that validation. But now people can just jump on Instagram and they get a lot of that validation. And which they can be, and I think sometimes I feel sorry for women. I think sometimes women feel that maybe
they have a higher expectation
more than what it is. What's that?
There's a higher expectation for like beauty standards or the way they should be rather than who they want to be.
But they also will think that their value is higher than it actually is in the real marketplace because of how many likes that they've gotten because they put a post out. Just because someone puts a post out and puts a bunch of likes because you're wearing a bikini doesn't necessarily translate into the real world as how many people are actually going to invest in that long term, right? And I think it can give a false sense of, oh, I can bring this value to the market, the sexual marketplace, so to speak, or the dating marketplace. And I think it's damaging, I think. But anyway, I think it would be very difficult. I'm not envious of you.
Right. So I was saying it more, not so much from like judging the person for who I think they should be, but rather that there was this one, I think it was in like Psychology Today or something. So obviously it has to be true.
It has to be.
That men will fall in love instantly or like within like the first interaction, then women take like 14 days or something, like take a lot longer to fall in love. And I guess I kind of realized that, yes, it is like, are there attractive women? Absolutely. I go to the gym, there's a lot of attractive women, not just because of their butts, but because of like the way they hold themselves and everything. I guess the way I was looking at it is that whenever I see someone, I usually have to observe them for a while. And that's observe, not like creepy, like watching or something like, hey, what are you doing now? But more of what you were saying about how, what was it? That people will, what were you saying about women, about just one thing you were saying.
About the validation you get from social media and all the likes?
Before that, I'll edit this part. I love creative editing. If I'm attracting someone so what you were saying was going into the mindset of this person might cheat on me or the person might do something bad.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's what it was. If I have those thoughts initially, there's like, I don't trust my feelings, but I do trust my intuition that if I'm having those thoughts when I first meet someone, then there's something about them that I just can't, that doesn't sit right with me. And usually it's tone of voice. Like the first thing is usually tone of voice. If the tone of voice,
And trust that, by the way. Very important to trust that.
the intuition or the tone of voice.
Oh, the intuition. Trust your gut. I use my gut a lot. Trust it. Don't overthink sometimes. Sometimes you can, who was it? Malcolm? What's his name? He had a book called Blink. And he was talking about like, I call it like doing a blink test. Like you'll pick up on something. You pick up on some things and how they're speaking or whatever. That is a form of communication, right? I didn't mean to jump on top of you there, but trust that because there's actually, so you are picking up on something. It's a form of communication and you need to trust it. Don't shove it aside, actually lean into it. So trust your gut instinct a lot because he was doing this thing called this blink test where they were being presented with something and they were having to make a decision like that fast. And those decisions based on an instinct are actually probability or the chances of being correct are very high. And you will end up intellectually talking yourself out of things. You'll rationalize, well, no, that's just not this, not that, whatever. When you actually, your instinct, you're literally, your whole body's like, red flags are happening all over. And you're like, but she's got a nice rack, man. I don't know. Like, so you're allowing these other things to kind of interfere with your survival mechanism. Like, don't do it. What are you doing? Red alert.
So that's what I was going to go off of, is that if I have those feelings initially, that's probably something, there's something about that. Even if everything else looks good, there's some resistive point, like for me, tattoos are usually a big thing. Like I'll see that and I'll be like, there's something different about you that I can't figure out. But if I don't have those thoughts, then usually it's something like, especially if I know her parents, if I know the people she interacts with, but mostly, again, this could sound really creepy if it's taken the wrong way. How they talk, how they treat others, but also how do they act when they're just by themselves? When there's there might be more people around them, there might be opportunities to talk, but when they're not talking to someone, when they're not interacting, do they I'll always keep my back hunched because I'm always thinking about something, but do they look like they're slacking off? Do they look like their eyes are glazing around? What are they doing? And I guess it just comes down to intuition. I do trust my intuition, but I also, and that's why I don't trust my feelings. I could feel a certain way instinctively, but and also I know my intuition's still being developed. It's not I'm not going to trust it 100% if I've never actually interacted, if I haven't seen it before. So it's just really whoever like from the, again, it could be I don't like first impressions, like the idea of like first impressions or the lasting impressions, but first impressions are a good baseline to start at. It's like where on the hierarchy of quality do I see this person from just a perception point of view? And I could be wrong, and I probably am wrong. I'm too young to know whether or not I am wrong or right, but I can build on top of that. And if it's like, oh, they're down here rather than up here, it's like, well, do I have to lift them up? Do I have to figure out if they go up to here, or do I start from here and then go up?
And I think first impressions can be very valuable though, too. It depends on what the first impression is. Like go on a date with somebody, but this actually, I think it's been around forever, but it's so true. And that is, how do they treat the waiter? That's one of those old wisdom kind of idioms, and it's true. Like if they're willing to, so if they're treating this person like that, what is that? Who are they then really? Like what are they? They're signaling to you a lot. That doesn't mean like if they're very polite, then like 2 weeks later they can be a complete bitch. Who knows? But like deep down, they're just faking it. But if they're just full out in front and just being a diva, like right out the gate, you're like, nope, I'm good. Because that more than likely is not going to get better. But that's probably going to get worse. It's like what is, like when you go to a restaurant, it's always the good first impression is you want to know how clean the kitchen is. Check out the bathroom. Right? They can't keep something that you don't get to go into the kitchen, but they're allowing you to see something everyone can walk into and it's filthy. Well, that kitchen's probably way worse. And so if someone's on a date and they're acting whatever they're acting like, that's probably not going to get any better if the relationship goes on. It's probably going to get worse. So they're showing you who they are right away, and which is good, by the way. I think that's great. It's like, thank you for showing me that. Now I don't have to invest my time in you. Thank you. But so that is a first impression, though, that says a lot. And you should trust that, and versus looking past that bad behavior and going, well, she's got a nice ass.
Yeah. It's like she can get that later on. That's fine.
But I know what you're saying, though, too, because you could run into somebody and they could be in a bad mood for some reason. And they're a little short with you. Like, okay, well, maybe that. And the next time you see them, they're in a wonderful mood. Well, maybe then that time and space you encountered them, you can't base all of your opinion on them based on that one interaction, because maybe something happened to them. So it's about determining which first impressions are the ones you lean in on. But yeah, the instinct is very important. I think as you get older, you'll hone that. I think it's a skill for and definitely don't shy away from it. Some people just shy away from it. They get too woo-woo. I'm like, well, no, there's an instinct there.
Like that small tangent on what you were talking about. Whenever I see, like if I see someone at like a bad point or they do something bad, I don't usually lower the lows that I see of them. I usually just wait until I see the highs. So like, let's say they're in a bad mood versus a good mood. It's like let's say there's a baseline. I'll see, like if they're in a really low mood or a lower mood, I don't really hear that so much. I'll just be like, there are times when they are not in the best state of mind. But if like they're like if they're they have good mood, they have excitement, they have like overly enthusiastic, like there's a leveling, like I guess back to like the law of attraction, like I see more of like what makes you really happy, what makes you click, what makes you get out of whatever it is, and not so much what's all the bad things that you're thinking about. How do I avoid all of this?
Something else I pick up on a lot now is you're talking about, I think what you're doing now when you're observing, there's nothing creepy about it at all. You're observing. I mean, that's just, I observe all the time, constantly observing, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. I even observe myself, my own thoughts. Like I'm not sure we talked about that before. I'll have a thought, and then I actually can have like this observer effect while I'm observing myself. Sounds kind of, weird, but it helps me to like, all right, is this right? Anyway, so is how people talk. Like when they are like, I can pick up on if someone's very victim oriented fairly quickly in a conversation.
That's usually the vocabulary. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a vocabulary. It's how they're speaking about the world, about themselves. And it doesn't take very long. It's just one conversation. You can pick up on it. And I then find myself, so in just relationships or friendships and things like that, when someone's like that, I'm never going to jive with that person. I'm like the polar opposite. I'm extreme ownership of everything in my life. So then, like, I never look at anything from a victim standpoint at all. And I find myself sometimes correcting people. My wife doesn't think it's always the most polite thing to do sometimes, because some things will happen to people to be telling a story, and I'll go, good. Like, what do you mean good? And they're like, good. Now you know, like, what to do with this thing. Now you have an opportunity to learn. Like, this is because that's how and I will interject. And then there's always going to be someone who's very victim. Then they take offense to that. But so I determined just by conversation, like, I don't think I'll jive with that person from an energy level. And now a belief and value level, like, and but it's not even really, it's like not even politics. Like, I can meet people of all different political persuasions on a spectrum, but it's about how do you view the world, right? Do you view the world it's half full or half empty kind of thing? You can make that simple. And if you're a half empty person, I'm probably not going to jive with you that much, because I can't have deeper conversation, because I just don't go to that ever. I go to, like, even in the worst shit that's ever happened, like, how do we find the gems in this? How do we dig into this horrible pit I've put myself into and find mother lode of gold ore down there? And I find I have great conversations with people that have more of an abundance mindset or growth mindset, because I end up getting into all kinds of fun conversations about business or opportunity, growth and creativity, and just we're kind of it's this sharing wisdom back and forth, their journey of what they've been able to do and the little wisdom or hacks that they've been able to implement in their life, have learned to level themselves up, So yeah, you could pick up on that nuance very easy when you talk to somebody. You'll know, like, oh, I don't want my future wife to have that attitude.
There's also which is like my go-to whenever I first meet someone, is that I assume that when I first meet them that they're honest. Even if they're trying to, like, maybe suck up to me, or maybe if no one's done that. I'm not that good. I'm not that special. If they're like, I'll assume that whoever they're showing me first impression is their most honest self of who they are. Even if it's like a mask, even if it is something else, it's like you're showing me what your intentions are from the beginning. It's like, do you want to show me the mask? Do you want to show me who you are? Are you trying to have a good conversation? Are you trying to show the best part of yourselves? Or it's only positive things? Are you also like, are you more focused on the conversation, or are you more focused on impressions? And it's like, that's pretty easy to know within the first minute.
Do you ask, I know this is what we're having here, you're asking me questions, but typically when I meet people, I ask lots of questions. I'm very curious. And by the way, it's almost like not like speed dating, but it's like that. So because I'm also genuinely curious, and I just want to get to know the person within a certain period of time just by asking lots of questions. And what's interesting, I think there's maybe this is out of Psychology Today too, but about a person that is, they will leave a conversation. If someone's asking lots of questions of them, they'll leave that conversation. They'll go back like, I really like that person, because they allowed them to talk about themselves. So if you just ask nice questions, you're pleasant, you're also, if they're talking about pleasant things, you're also excited for them. They know nothing about you, but they will walk, because they didn't ask any questions to you, so they don't know who you are. They will walk away and say that, I really like that Geoff. He's a really good guy. You're like, dude, you don't even know me. All I did was ask you like a series of questions. You talked to yourself for 30 minutes. But I do. I like to get to know people right away. And then I can pick up on it. I tell my wife, like, or yeah, I like that person. I want to spend some more time with them.
That's something from How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you make the other person feel smart, then you've done your job.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I was going to go on another tangent with that, but there's a different thing I was going to mention, is that...
that was something, speaking of, well, in that vein, this is like, you can compliment a woman. This is like, for a guy. Complimenting a woman on beauty, the women love that. But what they really also love is complimenting them on the way they think. Right? Like, I really love your train of thought. Like, wow, that's really good. Like, I love how you think. So you can compliment them on their beauty, and then if you really get in and compliment them on their thinking and their mind, there's something about. I was listening to this. Maybe it was a pickup artist guy or something. I can't remember what it was years ago. I was talking about that. It was, you just can't always hone in on their physical traits, because women have heard it before. If you're a beautiful woman, they've heard it. You're not adding anything new. More than likely, though, they haven't heard someone appreciate them for their mind. And so you can admire them for their beauty, and it's okay to let them know you see that. But then if you really want to get is to hone in on something and then compliment them on their way of thinking in their mind, how sharp they are. Like, oh, I love that. I've never thought of it that way. That's, and they'll like, oh, this person sees me for more than just this. And so you can't just imply it. You have to say it. You have to tell them, I love how you think. That's incredible.
Well, I do the same thing with if I ever compliment anyone, whether it's like just hey, you have a wonderful personality. I mean, men or women. It's like some people would be like, hey, you look really nice today. Like usually it's like, hey, you wear a bolo tie. That's cool. And I'm like, hey, you have a great personality. And like it usually catches them off guard. It's like, I mean, when I first started it, just like it was kind of hard for me to remember to say that, but eventually it just became like instinctual. Just say it. But yeah, that's one thing that I try to do all the time is that if I compliment someone, I have to have the evidence back it up. Because if I'm like, you're beautiful, why? Most of the time, beauty, I don't like for women, for specifically, whenever I say that they're beautiful or I find them very attractive, it's not because it's partially like, oh yeah, you can be very physically attractive, but like based because like I'm always looking at different, like I watch a lot of movies, watch a lot of TV shows, like I'll see different nuances in people's faces, like, oh yeah, this part of you is kind of like the ratio is not that good or the proportions are kind of off. But like that's the 40% of how I see someone. It's like, yes, there's how your facial expression is, but like who's the person behind that? Because like I'll get caught up in someone's beauty very quickly. Like I'll just be like, you're so attractive, but it's like, what's the next step beyond that? Because if I understand that part of them, then I don't have to worry about the beauty part. And I guess that's just the way I disconnect from like the sexual attraction or something. Just what's the one step beyond that? And yeah, that's a weird.
It's details. It's the detail. When you compliment, say on their nails, we've done their nails. Like you're honing in on details. So you're also telling them I see you. I'm seeing all these little things. And I'll do that to just like women just to be nice, and they light up. Those waitresses or someone at like a checking out of the grocery store. And when we talked the first time, did I tell you about the story at the grocery store? This woman was having a bad day.
I don't think so.
So this is the power of just being very nice to people, and like how you can shift them. And again, this comes being an observer. You're an observer, Claire. So it's being an observer and watching what's going on. At this grocery store, it's the holiday season. And I've got a cart full of stuff. There's a woman that comes up behind me. She's holding a handful of items in her arm, cradle like that. I'm like, by the way, I always make sure when I go to the store, I'm never in a rush. Even if I'm in a rush, I'm there for a reason. If something's going to hold me up, I just choose to I'm supposed to be held up. Like I don't get frazzled by shit like that. I don't look at, no, I'm in a hurry, ma'am. Like my time's more, I look at her and I'm like, hey, you just jump ahead of me. So she does. And then the cashier looks at her and then looks at me and gives me this look, and she's pissed. And I'm like, I'm not sure why, but she's annoyed. Then the woman puts the stuff down. Then I start looking at the woman who's in front of me, and she's okay. Clothes are a little tattered. Oh, her fingernails are dirty. Oh, her hair's she's homeless. Come to find out. Now I'm like, okay, she's homeless. And I'm like, okay, she's a homeless person, clearly. She's definitely unkept a little bit. And when it came to time to buying, and apparently these two, they know this woman must.
I've seen it most of the times. Okay.
Yes.
A regular. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it came time for buying, there's a conveyor belt where you put the food on, and then there's a conveyor belt after she scans, the conveyor belt sends it down to get bagged. So there's these two conveyor belts. The woman then takes she has a pocket full of change. She dumps it on the conveyor belt, and then someone's going to get caught. And it's like, now the cashier is pissed, and she's making little comments and kind of glaring at me. And I'm like, first, I'm just like, I don't think it's very professional. Like, whatever this woman's issues are, you don't have to be mumbling and saying stuff. Anyway. And then there was an issue, like she's not going to have enough money. Then I offered them to pay, no, she ended up having it. That's fine. And she gets her stuff and moves on. Now the cashier is just annoyed. I can tell she's just pissed. But I'm thinking to myself, it can't just be this woman that's pissed her off. It usually never is, right? So what's really going on in her life? I don't know what it is, but something is. And she makes a comment. She makes a derogatory comment about that woman. I ignore it. And I hone in that she has this like very festive necklace on. I'm like, oh my God, look, that's adorable. What is that? Like, like it's because it's around Christmas time. She goes, oh, this, yeah, my son gave this to me. Da, da, da. And then when she's holding it, I notice her fingernails, and they're all decorated for Christmas, like snowmen and all this shit. And then I go, oh, look at you're really festive. Look at your nails. They're beautiful. They're really beautiful nails. Oh my God, that's where do you get them done? So I'm having this conversation. She's lit up now. She's very happy. Her whole state is changed because I'm complimenting her. Then we go back to the necklace and talking about her son. He's coming into town. She's so excited. And I was like, anyway, I was complimenting her and her son. We're just having a great conversation. When she's done, she handed me the receipt with 2 hands. And she goes, thank you so much for being nice to me. I walked away and go, happy holidays, whatever. And I'll go away. I'm like, see? I could have engaged. I could have gone down to her emotional level or energy she was putting out. Like, why do you do that? I'm being righteous. Why do you treat this homeless person this way? Whatever. I ignored that. I honed in on just being kind to her, being nice, acknowledging her for these little elements of beauty that she had. She was an older woman and she was a little heavyweight, and she wasn't like she wasn't a beautiful by standards person, but I honed in on the things about her that were beautiful, and that represented beauty. And I knew she cared about it. She went out and had these beautiful nails. So I honed in on those things and complimented her on it. And she just lit up. And I was like, and so I practice that everywhere I go. I see little things and I'll just pick out the detail in somebody and I'll mention something complimentary of it. And they change like that. They shift. Like, oh, you see me now. I'm not just here to like give you a check. I'm not just here to provide you this. Like, you're seeing me. I think people like that. They respond to that in a very positive way. And by the way, it always makes my engagements with things when I'm out in public very fruitful. Like, I don't have issues. I need something. It gets taken care of because I'm just nice to people. I'm just kind. I think kindness is overlooked so often today, Just be kind to people. Do you ever practice the experiment where you're standing, and this might sound creepy, you're standing kind of in a crowd and just you make eye contact with them, you just smile at the person? Yeah.
Well, if they look like they're
back.
worth smiling for. Sometimes they look like they're gonna shoot me, and I'm like, maybe not.
Well, like yeah, exactly. But you should try that. You should find like the biggest, ugliest biker dude and try and see what happens.
Oh yeah, I've had plenty of ugly guys on the podcast. I could do that with them all the time.
Just look at the guy in the crowd. Looks like he's murdered people before. Give him a smile.
There's something that you mentioned of you. Like, I usually find that people either try to balance emotions, either like someone's not in a great mood and then like they go with the complete opposite. They're like, hey, here's me in a great mood. Or they try to empathize with the bad mood. It's like, hey, what's like, maybe for like not so close relationships, it's usually balancing out the emotions. But if it's like close relationships, it's like empathizing, like what's actually going on? What's going on in your life, and what can you talk about it? And like, I'll be happy to listen to it. And something that's kind of recent for me is that a lot of that I know more people. I've had like, I think other than one exception, that was like 8 years that I've known him. Most people I know I've known for maybe a year and a half, like maybe 2 years ish max. Like, I haven't, like, for the most part, all the relationships I have platonic are new. I haven't had any romantic relationships, unfortunately, but most of the time it's like now I can pick up on certain emotional differences. Like, it's like, oh, your tone of voice is slightly off today, or it's something off. And for a few people, I'm able to not, because I'm like primarily judgmental. I'll judge people quickly. But if I have known them for long enough, or I know more about their backstory, then I usually disconnect judgmentally. So it's like, if they're going through something emotionally, I can listen to them and not judge them for it, and not try to fix them, not try to be like the supporter, be like, oh, you shouldn't think that way, or you shouldn't do this. Like, I'll just disconnect, let them figure out everything, and then be like, hey, have you tried this? And they're like, yeah, not really. Or like, they'll go one way and I'll just keep asking questions or keep being curious. But also, that's also a reflection of my emotional state. If it's in the morning, I'll be happy to do it. If it's like at night or even in the evening, I'm usually like completely out of it. I'm like, just shut up and finish whatever you're going to say, because I have to leave. So it was just like a weird tangent that I thought of.
By the way, I think that's really good you're picking up on those cues. I think the things that most people I find just want to be heard. If they're having a bad day, you just ask them and they'll tell you. Right. And then listening that's all they want. They typically just want to vent about it. They don't want to be told how to fix it. And if you can offer advice, I always ask permission.
Right.
Again, so where I don't sometimes, where I was mentioning earlier, because I already know I will be a little bit more forward with things when I kind of pick up, I'm probably not going to have a relationship with this person anyway. And that's where I'll just jump in where I could tell, like, oh, wow, they're like a victim queen. Like, this is like, I'm never going to hang with this person anyway. So I'll just throw like a hand grenade in the room, kind of speak, and just like, well, that's good. I'm glad, can you learn? I'll throw that kind of shit out there sometimes to invigorate conversation, because I just already know, like, I pick up on their eyes like that. It's just not something I'm going to associate with all that much. But someone I just meet and I could see them, I have empathy, I believe. And I will let them, I'll do what you do. I'll just let them speak, because I've come to know that's what they just want. It'll make them feel better just to be heard. And just say, I'm so sorry that's happening. I'm sorry. That's it. You don't have to give advice. Just, unless you think you got something. And then I always ask permission, like I said.
Do you have a separation between being nice and being kind? There's a friend of mine who said that people on the East Coast will be kind but not nice, and those on the West Coast will be nice but not kind.
Nice can sometimes be fake, I think. And kindness is just who you are. You're just, it's you can be a little gruff, and then you'll take the shirt off your back, to give to somebody. So I think there is a distinction.
Do you try to?
I try to be kind. Yeah, I can be a very direct person sometimes, and I think I'm. So sometimes I can come across sometimes as being a little too direct, I guess, a little assertive on some things that people might bristle at sometimes. I think overall, I think I'm a kind person. Like, I like to do things for people. I am thoughtful, I guess. My wife's very, very kind. She's very, very kind, very thoughtful of people, always thinking about people more than herself a lot.
Actually, I want to bite down on the being direct. I can't remember exactly how I organized it, but there's explicit, implicit, direct, and indirect when it comes to communication. I am really bad at indirect communication, where so explicit is like, here's something. Direct is, this is exactly how I feel about it. Implicit is, here's something that is generally known, but not necessarily explicitly said. So like, if the door is open, it's like, it's cold. Everyone can feel that it's cold, but explicitly is like, it's cold in here. And then indirect, and then direct would be, hey, can you close the door? Indirect is, I hope someone can close the door. So do you, I'm like, if I don't have the information, I don't know, like, and I'm doing this from like explicit. Implicit is like logical, whereas direct or indirect is emotional. It's like, I don't know how you feel emotionally if it's indirect, but I can if you're like, hey, here's something. It's like, oh, I didn't know that. Because some people can hide it really well. And it's like,
because indirect can be, there's a level of interpretation people can have. Right. And if I want something done, it's, don't be indirect, be direct. Again, because you don't know how they're going to interpret what you're saying. There are people that I think passive aggressive people are very indirect. That's what they do instead of just saying it. But I find interesting was that I know a couple people that can be passive aggressive. They're in my family, and I know what they're talking about, and then I'll just play like I don't know what they're talking about. So it doesn't make sense. They're like, oh, it's really cold in here. I know what they're saying. Like, oh, you opened the door, right? Now, don't you think it's cold? I know they're wanting me to, and then they'll keep saying it, but I'll just, and say, why don't you just tell me to close the door? So I'd rather you just be direct with me. It's like, I'm cold. Can you close the door? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Not a problem. But if you're like, oh, it's so cold. Like, okay, well, the door's right there. You can go close it yourself. But it's to me like, are you wanting me to close? It's like, they say that. It's like, do you want me to close the door? Like, is that what you're saying? Like, why don't you just tell me? And sometimes I find myself I'll joust with them that way, and I'll just kind of ignore it. And just like, why don't you just tell me that? Like, I don't read minds. Like, well, I said, it's like, no, you just said you were cold. You didn't say you didn't add an action step to that. You didn't make a request. You were just saying. I think they say sometimes women are like women are classic at that. Like when they, instead of just telling their husband, "Can you take the trash out?" They'll make a comment about something like about the trash or about this. Well, it really smells like. So you want me to take the trash? Is that what you're saying? You want me to take the trash out? So I'm very direct. I just get to the point. It's very logical. Just I don't mind you asking me for things. That's okay. Just ask. It's okay.
It's being direct, but also having the tone of voice that isn't harsh, because you can be direct and say what you actually feel, which is like, I really hate this, but then the tone of voice is like, there's a tone of voice internally and then there's a tone of voice externally. It's like the external one has to have a filter, otherwise it's not going to get done. Like you can say something directly, but if it hurts the way you're saying it, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll do that, but like I might be reluctant next time if that's like the kind of tone of voice. So there's that. And then there's also,
I think being direct is a preferred method. Again, man, I'm biased because that's how I do it. But it's like, I'll give you an example. Go to a restaurant and be indirect.
it's true, yeah.
Like, what do you want, lady? Like, I'm hungry and I'm feeling really hungry and I want something that's kind of, that's hot. Because, I just like, what do you want? Like, just get to it.
I guess that also kind of goes to familiarity, that the more you know someone, the more you hope they just understand without you having to like explain everything, because explaining everything takes more time.
I'm direct and I would prefer the communication to me to be direct. Because I find myself I'm thinking about stuff too. And I sometimes don't want to take the energy to try to decipher what you're trying to tell me. Why don't you just tell me what you want? My wife did the classic, I asked her what she wanted to eat. The classic thing you've heard that like, no, it doesn't matter. So then I go, okay, let's go to the fish house. No. Well, then it does matter. So why don't you tell me? Because I gave her, and then I was like, okay, it's fine. Then I was like, let's check out that new Mexican place. Well, I'm not really feeling like Mexican. You literally told me that. This is two options I've given you. You literally told me it doesn't matter. So clearly it does matter. So why don't you tell me what you want? It doesn't matter. Like, oh, you're back here, or we're back to square one again. It doesn't matter. It's like, can we do this exercise over and over again? So why don't you be very clear with me? Why don't we start with what you don't want?
Do all the process of elimination.
It's just like, it doesn't matter. It was funny. She actually had to laugh at herself. And because I saw apparently it does matter. We went to end up 3 different kinds of restaurants. And so apparently it does matter what you want.
I think there was something on social media. It's like when their wife gets in the car, they're like, we're going to go eat. It's like, yay, do you know what you want? Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're going to go to your favorite place. Oh, we're going to go to my favorite place. And then they're like, yes. So then the wife says, oh, this is where we're going. He's like, yes, that's exactly where we're going. The guy had no idea where they were going. But
that's great. I have to remember that. That's really good. Go to your favorite place. My wife would probably go, all right, Mr. Smarty Pants, what is my favorite place? Like, oh, shit. You're not supposed to do that. This is not how the game works.
I keep repeating this on different episodes, but it's like it works so well. Honesty without kindness is manipulation. Or no, kindness without honesty is manipulation, and honesty without kindness is brutality. It's like you can be honest with someone, but if you're not kind about it, it's like it hurts. But if you're kind but not honest, then you're just trying to get something out of them that's like, this is not actually what I want. It's like, this is what I hope to get, which like goes into like toxic relationships and stuff.
Well, it's like, I mean, it's a form of manipulation. You have an objective that's not about them; it's about yourself.
What's your
what's
your perspective on self-manipulation? That you try to lie to yourself over and over and over to get the thing that you think you want, but like deep down, there's actually something else that you want.
Oh shit. Well, and that's another one. I think I know. I always toss it back and go, "That's something we all do." I think at certain levels, right? I've done that when I've tried to rationalize. There's been moments in my life where I know I needed to be disciplined, know I needed to work hard, and then I'll come up with the little story that, oh, this is mainly when I was younger. Oh, money's not that big of it. I don't really need it. knowing I had to put effort in and do whatever I needed to do to get it. And if it wasn't working as fast, but just because I was feeling lazy, I would come up with these stories of why rich people sucked, you know? You know what I'm saying? Therefore, if I had money, then I would suck too. You ever heard of that? And in order to ever have money in your life, you have to remove those belief systems. Because you won't be long for money if it ends up in your hands. You'll get rid of it because your true belief system about money will force you to never get it. If you ever get it, you'll get rid of it. So you have to remove that. So it was in my 20s. I had this kind of like, oh, I'm never in the pursuit of wealth. I'm in the pursuit of adventure. And like, why would I say that? Why would I say that? Because I had a issue with wealth consciousness then. I really did. And so I told stories about, like, I never really demeaned wealthy people or people that had means, but I would never really wanted to associate myself with them. That, money is the root of all evil. No, actually, that's not what it says specifically in the Bible. It's very taken out of context. That's not what they're talking about. But, those kind of comments, hear someone, well, money is the root of all evil. I'm like, oh yeah. So this is something I hope that answered that. But this is something when I was just getting ready, I was just doing an interview for an author we're getting ready to sign. And I get this all the time. And so now people just have this default that they say. And so now I have an answer for it now. Like, they really feel them out. They'll go, well, I don't really care if the book sells. I'm like, I really didn't do this for money. I'm like, okay, so if it does sell, can I keep it all? No. I'm like, well, I thought you didn't made any money. So you're not here to make the money. You're here just to get the book out. Like, that's fine. I'll keep all the money. I'll keep all the royalties. I say that flippantly, really quickly to them to test them. And they're like, oh, well, no, well, hold on. So it does matter because it's important to me that it's important to them. So if someone is adamant that they don't care that the book, because I look at it this way, when I interview an author to sign, they're just as invested in its success as I am. We as a company we can't do it all. So we'll do what we can for the marketing and promotion of the product. But at the end of the day, they have to be so happy. They want to go on every rooftop and scream about how amazing this book is. They should be going around to everywhere and trying to put this book in everyone's hands. So that requires them to want it to be successful. We're not signing people so they can have some kind of therapeutic exercise. They feel better. So, I've written a book. I'm done. No, we're not going to, because we invest money in the book to produce it. And I think people say those things like, I don't care if it does that well. Like, well, then I'm not going to sign you, because you have to be just as engaged and active in the promotion of the book as we are. And I find that people just say those things, but it does give me a glimpse of how they think about themselves or their belief systems. Because why would you say that? I'm very upfront. Like, when I want something, like, I want to make $1 million from this. Like, I'm very forward about that. I have, like, the issues I had 30 years ago with wealth consciousness are gone. And very, very upfront about money and wanting a lot of it and not being ashamed at all for having a lot of it. There's no shame in it. The people that I also find that have an issue with wealth, again, I think it's not about, they'll point out the anecdotal cases of someone with money that uses it for all the wrong reasons. Well, that's anecdotal. Like, there are so many cases of people with money that do incredible things with it.
Yeah, and a lot of them don't talk about it.
Exactly. Well, I mean, look at it. There's so many charities out there that do incredible, great things, and because they're funded by people that have a lot of money. And so I find that I pick up on those things right away, and I go after people right away. Like, I'd never want to do business with somebody if they also, they have to have the common vision where we want to go. But if they have a wealth consciousness issue, I can't do business with that person. Because I still do want to generate, I think I want it to do well. And so by its doing well, it's going to generate money. Typically, that's how it works. Like if you bring, I want to create a great product or I want to bring great value. Well, money is a byproduct of that. So you bring great value or you create a great widget and you put it out to the world, but your intention was that money flows from that. So you have to, it's implied then that you're going to end up with a lot of money and you have to be okay with that. So if you're not okay with having a lot of money, then you might end up sabotaging your product or sabotaging its success because somewhere you have a problem with money. You making all the connections I've got? And so I don't need someone to tell me it's like this. I don't want them to tell me that's all they want to do is make money, because then again, you can compromise yourself and maybe do bad shit to make money. You have to go, I want to create the best, whatever that is. I'm going to put my heart and soul into creating that thing or providing that service. It's going to be the best. Well, income comes from that. Success is byproducts of all those things. But if you have any issues with those byproducts, it's going to jeopardize that. But if you only focus on not the product, but not the main thing, but like a byproduct, like I only care about money. Well, you can end up doing some bad things in order just to have that. You'll take shortcuts to create the product because or to do whatever you're trying to do. You'll try to cheat the system to try to get this. Anyway, so I have a hard time signing people or, again, working with people that have wealth consciousness issues in both directions. I don't want people to be obsessed over it and that's all they want, but they have to want to have it. I hope that makes sense.
That does. There's, I don't remember the exact phrasing, something along the lines of how you treat others. How do you treat others when you have everything, and how do you treat yourself when you have nothing? And I mean, it ties into how much do you actually care about something and how much do you just want it for the benefits and not necessarily for the effort. And it kind of goes to the best way I can relate to this is the quality of the podcast that I'm trying to make. Is that I try to make sure everything on production side is as the highest quality that I can with all the information that I can make out of it. Like, do I make sure the camera is synced with the frame rate? Do I have to make sure like the shutter speed and the frame rate are good? Make sure the quality of, like, right now, my voice is going through this tiny little lav mic so your audio that you're getting might sound like a little bit low quality, but the quality that comes out in the end is going through the podcast, which the cardioid microphone, so it sounds a little bit nicer. And then, like, when I upload to YouTube, I upload it in the entire footage. So it's like 150, 200 gigabytes of stuff going to YouTube. And that's probably like, I think most people cut it down to a certain thing. So it's only like a 30, 40 gigabyte file. And I'm like, I just send it to YouTube. YouTube doesn't care about it. Just compress it however you want. But in the end of the day, it's like, what's the most important part of the conversation? So it's like, I'll try to make sure everything else is perfect, but some things might not be perfect. The audio quality might be just slightly off. Like, I might have the microphone too close to me, so it sounds boomy. Might have it too far, so it sounds weird. So, like, end of the day, it's like, what's the most important part of the conversation? But I also care about the quality, because even though I might get like 50 views per video, I'm like, 10 years from now, I'm going to look back and be like, hey, that was actually really nice.
Yes, because you're caring about the integrity of the product, which, by the way, you've got the conversation is part of that. So I would guess your ultimate goal is to provide is to
it should be better to communicate.
Yeah, you're trying to create incredible conversations that are insightful for people. You're entertaining people. That's also something you're trying to do, right? And so you want to do it with you're respecting the listener or viewer, and that's very important. That does come down to the quality of the interview person or who you have on. Also, the experience, the sound, the visuals, all those things are important. I think they're almost just as important, because you can have, I say this I'll put it over on the writing aspect. You can have a great story, put it on the paper. So I'll say this, a great author isn't necessarily a great editor, nor should they be. Your job is to entertain and tell an awesome story. Then you bring in other people that have those talents to polish that up. And then you bring in other people like formatters to format it, so then when the reader's consuming it, it's not distracting. So the editor makes sure it's not distracting by making sure it flows, it reads nice, there's not typos and grammar issues, which can make it very distracting for a reader if it's filled with errors. Same thing goes with the formatting. If you've got too much space, there's a certain way that the eye wants to roll off the words. It has to be formatted so that it makes it easier. So those are all things you have to make that the standards are high. Not just a good story, but also these other components are there part of, because you can have a great story, but it's filled with typos. People are not going to move on too fast. So if you have you can have the best guest on your show, but your sound quality is dumb. They're not even going to finish the episode. Right. And so I think all those things are kind of equal. They're kind of sitting in that on a scale. They're kind of all right there. You put all those things in balance with one another, then you create a great product. You have something great. But what it's showing though, it's respecting who you're selling it to. You respect them enough. You value them by giving them something that they can appreciate.
Kind of like scientific papers. Like there's the people who actually make the studies. They go through all the research. They do all this stuff, but they have to get it approved before it becomes like an actual scientific study. That's one weird tangent, but like the main thing I was going to say is it's mostly just consistency. Like I've gone through, like there are some published episodes that I'm watching it and then out of nowhere it's just a blank screen. And I'm like, fudge. Cause in editing, I have to disable one person and then enable the other person just so the audio doesn't overlap. And then you have this weird echo effect. And like I was looking at one that I'm trying to get published tomorrow, but I haven't fully uploaded it yet. I'm trying, like I looked at it, I was scrolling through it to get all the photos that I put on Instagram. And then I get to this blank spot. I'm like, shoot. Okay. So I enabled it. Okay. I got one. And then I keep going through it. And then I found another one. I'm like, is there another one in here? So like, there's obviously like I have to do the production side, I have to do the editing side, I have to do the uploading side, which is not so much important, but just like that editing and publish and creating, it's like, is there going to be errors? Absolutely. Like when I was reading your book, like I've read 140 pages in one sitting. Like it's an easy to read. It's like, it's understandable to go through. Like I don't like, it's kind of like like a Tom Clancy. Like I could read it. I could like imagination's going all over the place. And I'm like I could read this forever. And the formatting is good. Like there's like Tom Clancy has his original first editions, which are all usually hardcover. And then he has I think Berkeley, I forgot the name. I think it's Berkeley Publishing or something like that. They make tinier, like pocketable editions.
Oh, you're talking about the mass market paperbacks?
Yeah. And like those, the
narrow, tall ones?
Yeah. The spacing and the font on the smaller ones are a lot easier to go through than it is the bigger ones, because the bigger ones, like you have to go through the entire thing. But it also just depends on the story. So like like the Patriot Games, I was able to go, like I've read the paperback version multiple times, but then when I was reading Executive Orders or Rainbow Six, I'm like, I prefer the hardback just because there's more density in the content. So honestly, it's like it's more of like, it's one, how you package it. Two, it's how much you want the quality to come out of it. But three, it's like, how much do you love it? How much do you care about it? And the reflection of how much quality is in it. No one else might be able to understand it, but as long as you understand it, that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's that's why, like I was saying, the quality, and it has to be in everything. But so you were talking about how it's easier to read. When I coach writers on it, I tell them the importance of tempo. You have to have a nice tempo when you're writing, and you're ending a scene or you're ending a chapter. You want to give enough. You want them to turn the page. You want to have the story flow that they're going. They want to keep knowing what's happening. You got to keep that. It's keeping them engaged. And so it's about creating this tempo. Like if you were to ask me how would I teach them to do it, I don't know how to write a tempo. I think it's something that just naturally comes organically to a writer. And I think tempo is created by doing process writing, by it's getting into a flow state. And when you're writing, it's not born from the intellectual side of the left brain or whatever. But yeah, tempo is very, very important. That's what keeps people locked in. And also having, it's the elements. You probably have it in the producing of videos too. You have like a hook. What is something that they're going to watch, that little clip? It's like a prologue. Like the hook for the end is that first scene in the future, right? Which was an afterthought, by the way, and already written the novel. But this is going back to the gut instinct thing. I must have read my book a million times, and I just kept thinking, I was like, something's wrong. Starting it in Fallujah, it's an action scene, but something is missing to make it. I don't know. I felt something was missing. And I was like, what if I had a completely different timeline in the year 2066? And I'm giving you, the reader, like, oh, wow, we're way out here. Oh, wow, Seattle, I mean, no, Washington State's in a different country. So now your mind's like, what has happened? What's going on? That this is not, the United States is gone? What do you mean? So you're instantly asking questions. You want to know more. At least that's my mind was. I was like, I want to know more. I'm intrigued by that kind of stuff. And the way that whole scene worked out, I thought it added so much value to the book. And I thought it sets up a nice hook to want you to go in and understand where the scenes in Iraq are kind of laying the development for the character Gordon, and what he experienced there sets it's with him through the entire series. His time in the Marine Corps when he's in Iraq and what happened there with that EPW really sets the tone for his skepticism and cynicism, and all these things are born from that moment right there. But it's hooks are very important, and you have to put the right hook in a video to get someone like, oh, that's a good little juicy tidbit to really kind of entice somebody to want to take the bait and go in and continue to get there.
It's interesting you're saying that, because I'm actually like the opposite. If I'm reading a book and there's an introduction, most of the time I skip the introduction. But if it's a prologue, I'll read it.
I've told people that all the time. I said, you'd be surprised. People put all this front matter in the book. I'm like, you have to know, most people, I do the same thing. If it's like the forwards, I want to get to the meat of what's going on. Right? So I never read, like if I'm personally reading a book, I never read a forward.
Yeah, I'll read it at the end, or I'll read it And it's the same thing with my podcast. I don't have one of the largest podcasts, Diary of CEO. That one, like when the amount of editing that they have to do for that in the very beginning, where it's like, it's snap, this, that, and it's like, here's all the stuff we're going to be discussing, and here's like some like really good hooks. And I'm like, this is good. But I don't listen to Diary of CEO. I listen to Modern Wisdom. I listen to like some Jocko podcast. I listen to stuff that's like, let's just get right into it. I don't want this other stuff. I'll hear it later. But if I'm going to listen to a 3-hour podcast, I want to listen from the very beginning. Like, what are we starting with? And there's always the assumption that the first 30 minutes isn't going to be good. It's like after 30 minutes, then things start getting connections start getting made. And that's mostly because I know what it's like to go through a 3-hour podcast. Like this one's 2 hours, 2.5 by now. So it's like, I know that, hey, it's not going to be perfect in the beginning, but like, don't give me an introduction. I just want to understand the person as they are for who they are, and then start building that up. And like, there was one 4-hour episode with Hermosi, and I was like, I need to watch this over a couple of days, because like if I do too much in one sitting, and I think there's like a limit to how much the brain can keep for, I think it's like an hour and a half a total, like the maximum that in one go can the brain retain something before it starts like teetering off and like you get too much information. It's like, yeah, I did the 4-hour thing, 1.5 here, 2 hours here, an hour here. It's like, what's my brain able to process without forgetting?
I listened to all those podcasts. I know you're saying what is his name? Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen Bartlett.
Very, very, very well, very professionally. I'll have to admit, I don't know why I don't know why it just bothers me though. He always is asking for the subscribers. He goes, like for 58% of you who watch this have not subscribed. I'm like, I think we got the hint, dude. Anyone's listening to your podcast does that. Like you keep talking about, let's get to the meat. Like there'll be like 5 minutes of you just doing stuff in the beginning. Like I want to get to what's going on. So that's why I do like other shows like Rogan's is like that. I know Chris right into it. He's story talking to the guest right now. Not a bunch of intro bullshit. That I think there has to be a balance with that, or people just go, oh, okay, I'm done.
At the same time, I also have to look at he has 10 million subscribers, whereas Chris has 2.7 or 3.7. I'm like,
maybe
like there is you're getting what you need, but it's like I'm not going to be a avid listener. I'm like, if I see something interesting, I might listen to it, but like that's not the way. Like I might get, like I don't want to be famous or anything. I don't want to have like I still want to be anonymous. I still want to have like the world that I can live in without ever like watching over my back. But like, would it be nice to have 1 million? Yeah, but would I rather have 10 million people who are listening to it and always talking about it, or would I have 1 million who are more loyal and more like whenever I listen to a Modern Wisdom, if there's an ad in between, I'm going to listen to the entire ad. Like I don't like that. It's one way to like just process everything that's happening, but two, it's like what are you suggesting? Oh, that's pretty cool. If I ever need that, I'll probably think about it. Like, I care more about the
Can
ads.
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You just said that I don't want to be famous. Yet you're doing podcasts where in order to gain, do you want the podcast to have success?
Yeah, I know. There's a duality of it. I don't want to be famous, but I also want to build a platform. Yes.
Okay, so you're also just building a platform. So you can be very anonymous and be successful being an author, by the way. You can have a pen name. No one can even know who the fuck you are and go out and sell 1 million books and no one really knows you. But I'm seeing your face and I'm assuming that's your name, right? So there's no anonymity right there. So if you want this to be successful, well, that goes with it. That's kind of what I was talking about before with the authors we look at signing. Like, I don't really care if I make much money. In fact, I don't really care about money at all. I don't really care if it makes money. That's what they'll say. I don't care if it makes money. Well, that's tied to success. So if you really have a problem with that, would you find yourself sabotaging your podcast once you got to a certain level?
I guess it's more, I mean, yeah, I know fame, anonymity is going to go away. I think it's more of the aspect that I'm not trying to do it for, like having a God mindset of like, I'm better than everyone else. I guess it's more of that. It's more, I don't want to have the I'm better than you mindset. Like, I still want it to be.
Well, then don't have that. So I would just, my suggestion to you, if you care what
No, of course not.
I wouldn't lead with that. Like, I don't care if, like, what are you doing here then? Like, what's your intent? It's about intention. And so that's never part of your intention. You don't even see that. It's like over here. So if you're like steering your car is out of control, don't look at the fucking tree then, because you'll hit it. So if you don't want the godlike thing, don't even look at it. It doesn't exist. In your space, it just won't be there. You'll be that person that can have success, that can have popularity, have a little bit of celebrity, whatever that means for podcasters. And you get to choose what you do with that. It's not an automatic. It's like the person who says all rich people are this. No, that's not true. Money is a tool. You put it in the hands of anybody. Someone whose character, unless it's already a trait you think you have. Do you think you have if given enough power, would you act like that? And that's your own conversation you have to have with yourself. But if you're not that person, all the popularity in the world is not going to change you, really. And all it does is speaking of Tom Clancy, he was on, was it Larry King years ago? And he talked about this topic. He talked about, you probably find it, it's on one of his grainy YouTube videos out there. He was talking about how it felt to suddenly have all this money. Because he's from Annapolis, right? Or he lived in Annapolis area or something. And he says it's not changed me at all. And he got into the concept because money it just really highlights who the person really is. So if you're already an asshole, you're going to be a big asshole with a lot of money. If you're a kind person and generous with no money, you're going to be amplified with money. You'll be the most generous person that ever existed. You'll just give money away everywhere. And I think same thing goes with celebrity. Like, there are celebrities out there that are super cool, grounded, very nice, no godlike kind of thing. But then there are people that just think their shit doesn't stink. I think those people were already that person. It's just that fame, that fortune, just amplified it.
That makes sense. No, that makes sense.
I know it was unsolicited
I don't
advice.
care. Unsolicited advice is usually the kind that I need to hear.
But you can always say, fuck that, fuck him, I don't care. Whatever. I tell people when I tell them something, I say, dude, Bobby, feel free to tell me to go pound sand. It's okay. I'm not offended. But I just want people to be successful, and I don't want them to cause something like you're already setting booby traps on your way to success because there's something there that you have to have a conversation with yourself about. That's all. And people do that. They will I say it because I've had to deal with these things myself. Did have issues with success. I did have issues with money. And then so as I would get them, I would lay the groundwork to blow it up because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't have a wealth consciousness. This is earlier on in my life. And so I had to get past all that. I'm like, why do I think like that? What is going on? And I can't look at this is the person, this caused a mommy issue. None of that. Like, I'm causing these issues. Let me dive deep on what belief system do I embrace that's causing this. It always stems to a belief system. Somewhere in there, you're thinking some way. Like, okay, you don't like that maybe about yourself, or you don't like it in other people, which typically are the same things, by the way. Sometimes things you don't like in other people, it's usually because you don't like it in yourself. You're seeing yourself in other people sometimes. I don't know. I just had to hone in on that when you said that. I was like, wait a minute, we're on a podcast. Like, maybe, maybe if you had like this kind of avatar screen on your hand with a completely different name, then it doesn't matter.
This is exactly what you were talking about earlier, which is like taking like your thought process and then just observing it in real time. Like when I was saying it, I thought that was true. And then when you said it, I was like, oh, it wasn't that I don't want to be famous. It's that I don't want to lose who I am for other people's sake. That makes sense. That's so like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you did say it though. So that was interesting. So when you just said it, now you might have different, but you had to be a little more nuanced about it. But you did say it. So there is some truth to it too.
I kind of is true now. Like the three major fears that I have is fear of
because you're a direct guy. I'll say this: you're very direct, and you could have said it you could have said it even the nuanced in a direct way. But you said it was very pointed about that. Like, okay, let's unpackage that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So the three major fears, I don't know if they've changed now, but the major ones that I had like a couple months ago is fear of abandonment, fear of failure, and fear of complacency. So it's mainly like the fear of abandonment. I don't want to be forgotten. I don't want people to like, I don't want to just be another person in the wind. But also, I don't want to get tied up in my own ego where I become someone that I'm not in order to please other people. So it's like, I don't want to lose people. Of course I'm going to lose people. There's been plenty of people at this, even in the last couple of months. I'm like, oh, we had a great conversation. We had a great relationship. Now we barely talk. And it's like, that's going to keep happening. So the fear of abandonment isn't as prevalent. Like I'm starting to value the ones who are sticking around rather than the ones who are going in the wind. But at the same time, I don't want to, I don't have a high self-esteem. I don't have a low self-esteem. I just have self-esteem. And I don't want to get caught up in my own ego or my own pride and then use that as a basis of success, in my opinion.
Do you have a mission statement that you created for your podcast?
I had multiple revisions. The three main themes is logical reasoning, emotional intelligence, interpersonal relationships. The main mission statement, or like the description that I have right now, I don't know if I have like a mission statement specifically, because I don't think it's like, I don't have a direct thing, but it's right now it's less of a vanity podcast and more of a research-based podcast. More of like, let me understand like who you are, understand, like read your book, understand different aspects to it, but then try to like understand the psychology behind it, understand like, here's some tangents. What do you think about that? So it's less about the person, it's more about the ideas, and then also understand the person. So it's like, here's the logical side and the emotions behind it.
I think mission statements are very important. And I think it should be not, they don't need to be full page. They shouldn't be. Very concise about what it is you're doing. And then I'd also add in there for yourself too, because if this is something you have a concern over, the ego thing, is add that to it. Is like, who are you at the time you're part of this mission statement? Who are you, right? And so the mission statement is I'm here to educate, inform, whatever your video. I'm going to creating videos and content to educate, inspire, whatever. I said, and then you can have someone there like who you are, and it's something I would post. You see it, and it's never forgotten. It's your core reason for why you've created this, right? And then if you need to always have something that always reminds you to never lose who you are, because you're going to change.
Absolutely, yeah.
You want to grow in a positive way, right? You want to get more wisdom. You want to learn and become better and level yourself up. And don't you see the shiny object, over here, and you're running over there, and that's never going to serve you. So you want to grow with things that only serve you. You can have that in your mission statement. That you're also doing this. You're doing this for other people, but there's benefits from it that you're getting out of it yourself.
Well, 90% of it is for me, 10% for other people, because I get to have the great conversation, then I get to publish it. The main reason why, and like you could punch me up for it depending on whether I'm wrong. Which if I am wrong, I hope you do punch me. Is that
the reason why I have like a description, I have some themes, but the reason why I don't have like a direct mission statement that I could just pop out of my head is because I don't think I've done enough of these to be able to have the evidence of consistency that I've done it multiple times. And this is like a major idea that comes out of every single episode, just because every episode becomes a little bit different. Because like this episode, I've mentioned multiple things that I've said in the last episode, which has also been mentioned in the previous episode. It's like there's a lot of consistent things, but mostly like all of that ties into the main thing, which is I don't want to make a commitment on something that I don't know whether or not it's worth committing to. Because once I commit to something, I'm going to commit to it full blast. I could leave it for 2-3 months, but it's going to go back to this is exactly where it was before. So would that make sense that I don't want the commitment of something that if I'm not 100% invested in, then it's like, well, I mean, obviously the podcast is, but like the actual description or the mission statement.
I would take here's what I've done before is people do. I'll kind of get around to it. This kind of the storytelling here. I always tell people to distill things down as far down as you can go. Just keep distilling and distilling and distilling it. And I also I'll mention 1 second. I want to make a note so I forget. Okay. Is I would just distill it down. So when people ask me, like, what is it that you do? And I was like, I just storytell. And when people ask me why I do it, I'm very simple in my mission statement. This is it. I am simply here to entertain people. That's it. When I've really thought about it, I'm here to entertain as many people as possible. That is my sole objective for all the writing I've ever done. I'm not in it to win awards. I'll take awards. I'll take all these things. All these things, I do want success, but the main mission I've ever done is to entertain people. I don't take myself too serious. Like I've done very well at it, but I don't take myself too serious. I know I know the thing you fear is that you get this kind of ego kind of attached to it. I don't, because I've never taken it that serious. I write fiction, for fuck's sake. Right? It's like, and you could even say the same thing like for podcasts. It's like you're having great conversations. You're just talking with people. I mean, maybe boil it down. What is it? I'm just having conversations. Like, why should I take myself that serious? It's like, it's all you're doing. I hope that makes sense. It's like, is just distill it down to like, what am I doing? Just having great conversations. That I'm learning a lot and other people can also learn. That's it. That's why I look at all the podcasts I've been on. I look at yours talking, you get to share. I'm getting to share time with someone who's clearly highly intelligent, who's driven and is inspirational. And that's what the podcast can be. People can get a lot from them. Again, they're inspirational. They're entertaining. Lots of lessons that are in there. But I mean, fuck, man, are they like, just don't take yourself that serious. That's one thing I do appreciate about, I mean, maybe I'm wrong when I look at whether it's Chris Williamson, he always still, one thing about him, he's steady. I've listened to him for years, like when he was just standing in his living room in London or whatever, right? And he's got the little light in the back corner, you know what I'm saying? He's still he seems like still the same guy. Maybe I'm wrong, but he still seems like the same guy. And I just don't think, and even Rogan or any of those guys, I just don't think they take themselves that serious. Like that you think that everything should hinge on your words or everything is that, or you're all knowing. Well, that's just not true. I actually like sometimes Rogan is like, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about half the time. Like he just talks. And by the way, that's what any of these things are. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about either. This is my opinions. These are just kind of a collection of what we were talking about wisdom. It's a collection of thoughts and experiences and, and that's really what it is. I mean, I'm not the end all be all in anything. I mean, I know how to produce a book. That's pretty, if that's a task that I know how to do, but that would probably change in so many years. And the way I do it will be different if I stop doing it today. But like just having conversations, I just don't take myself, I meet people that become prima donnas, like writers. I'm like, bro, really? You just write fucking books, man. You just string some words together. It's like, get out of here. Like, what are you really here for? I don't know. I think it's so if you're wanting that maintain a level of humility, just understands like, I'm just having conversations. That's really all this is. And but the quality is great. The conversations are great. You keep packaging that, all that other great stuff's going to come. Success will come. Money will flow. All these things will come from that. But then you'll still have your humility because you don't take yourself that serious. I hope that makes sense. When sometimes when people think, don't take yourself so serious, you just be kind of a fuck off and kind of aloof. That's not what I mean. Just be humble about like really in the scope of the world, like what you're doing. Like it's, you're not, I don't know. I look at it that way. I just string words together. People are entertained. I make a buck. It's good.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because a lot of people, they ask like, why do you do the podcast? Like, what's the essence of it? And I always have the 3 themes that I would go off of, but I never like really have what you're saying. And I'm just thinking here, like, I just want to learn more about myself. But it seems like it's such a simple answer. I'm like, there's got to be more to it, but it's also enough to understand. Like, I don't know everything. I want to learn more, but I'm also going to repeat a lot of what I'm saying, just because if I had learned like 1,000 pages of books in 2 days, then I probably didn't learn anything. So it's like, it's over time, the conversations get better and better, but it's also just like, I just want to know, am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? Is this the best way to think? Is there a better way to think? And then just keep boiling it down until it's like, hey, I can do this instinctively. I just have a conversation with someone and they're like, cool. I didn't know people thought like this. I'm like, yeah, I know, me neither.
But, just having that as a mission statement too, where you're getting to know yourself better, where other people are getting that too. So when I told the writer, I said, you're the first reader, so write the book for yourself. Well, then other people are going to get that too. So you're writing it for yourself, so you enjoy it. There's going to be other people out there that enjoy it as well. And so if you're doing the podcast to better know yourself and to learn, well, people are going to get that too. They're going to better know themselves, and they're also going to learn. Does it make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think, and what is the answer? I think it's as simple as possible. Whenever I have to tell people to describe a book, so tell me about your book. And oh my God, like 3 hours later, like the whole SpongeBob thing, like, bro, hold on, time out. You should be able to tell me about your book in like 10 seconds. Like we're going from the first floor to the second floor. And that's how long it should be a little 1 floor elevator speed to tell me about your book. It should not be. And you should want to tell them about your book and leave it open-ended. You've done your job if you give them a 10-second spiel and they ask questions. And then keep them asking questions. That's what I do. I felt so bad for this one guy. We're at them book signing and he had all these authors stand up and start talking. The dude would not shut up. He was really telling everything about the book, the entire plot, the characters, the motives. I'm like, dude, you should. I mean, it's what I started feeling so bad for him that I guess the host of this book signing really had to tell him. I was like, okay, all right, we're gonna move on now. It's like, oh, dude, that's so embarrassing. It was just like going just on rambling on and on and on and on. Just like, what's the book about? Like, keep distilling it down further and further and further to it's just one line. Get it as few words as possible. Find out what it's really about. And the same things for your podcast or other, like, what do you want to do? Like, I want to entertain people. Okay, great. And there's other things. I'm not saying it's overly, but that's the main goal. I want to entertain people. I want to be a storyteller.
The other side to it is also you're the best advertiser of what you're making. Like when I was talking to you, like it was like the initial brainstorming was great and everything, but it's like I wouldn't have bought the book if I didn't find you interesting. And then I bought the book and I was like, I could read this forever. And it's just like the best. Like I could have what you're saying is like I could have a simple mission statement, just hey, this is what it is. And then if they keep going on to it, you're advertising the book with who you are and not necessarily what you're trying to sell.
You could have like a mission statement that's just like learn, educate, be humble. I don't know. I mean, it's just like, and you just look at it all the time. So it's always on your forefront. Like I will always have my humility, no matter, I always remember where I came from. It's just keep things very simple. So then you can then go into the world and make it the biggest podcast that ever existed. And you will still have that as your component. You don't get lost because that's part of the whole core element of the podcast is that you will always remain humble, right? And you never get lost. You grow and you learn, you discover yourself, but you're still, that part of yourself that you love is still there.
It's actually pretty funny.
And the show can own up because again, I could see sabotage in your future if you have that as your thought. I don't want it to become like, oh fuck, you could be laying some landmines along the way. People do it. You hear people like, why? Some people that they can only make so much money and then they stop. There's a ceiling. Why is there a ceiling? Why can Elon Musk fucking make billions and then some people can't make more than minimum wage? What's going on with those people? It's always fascinating to me. What makes someone tick? What makes someone have that ability to be that rich? And then all the other people in between, like what's going on there? Like what's happening? It's their thoughts. It's the inner dialogue. It's and mainly what do they think about themselves? Obviously Elon is like, that dude's like at full blast. Like his signal is like 100% signal. And he's just, I think all he thinks about is he's always forward thinking. He breaks everything down to first principles and just puts it on fucking steroids. It's incredible. Yeah, he's accomplishing things that he's the dreamer, right? That applies so much effort to things, but he's the dreamer or he's coming up with things that have incredible utility. Whether you love him or hate him, people can hate him all like whatever it is, but you still can't. There's the genius behind the guy. Come on. Just to say he doesn't, like, you're just blinded by politics. Anyone that has those views that he's an idiot, I'm like, he's not an idiot. I'll tell you that. And you may not like him, but he's not an idiot.
But also the mindset to have. I think I saw one clip of him saying this, like, you don't want to know what's going on in his mind. Like there's this, like, the average human can't comprehend what's going through his mind. And that's like, that applies to like anyone, like even artists like Van Gogh or Da Vinci. It's like, you just don't know what they're thinking because the way that they're producing all this stuff. And besides, like, if the Library of Alexandria wasn't burned down, there's so much history that had to be rewritten, or so much like mathematics that had to be relearned because of like one idiot was like, hey, let's burn that down. So it's like how much can you imagine what Da Vinci would know if he he knew what everyone else knew way back when, and like all that came up to him, and it's like, here's the bigger baseline. What could he have, like, we could probably have flying cars by now. Maybe not.
Yeah, there's all those things. There's always been lots of loss of knowledge, right? Look at the Roman Empire. They got the Roman Empire and continued to advance. Someone was saying, I don't know, it was an older book I was reading, like we could be like 2,000 more years advanced. Had the Roman Empire, just because when it stopped and what followed that, the Dark Ages. Like when they ceased to exist, it wasn't just like the simple basic technology of aqueducts and these other things, but they had a system of government and laws and all, that all went away. Like all those basic things we take for granted. If you look at like Roman law, it's really what made the Roman Empire, is their laws and just how they govern themselves. They down to how mortgages work and lending and percent, like they were, is all of it. And it disappeared and we had to recreate it all again, years later. Was it after the fall of Rome, the next city to have like a million people was London? It was like 1,000 years later or something. So yeah, it's yeah. And by the way, wouldn't it be amazing? Think how far we'd be advanced if we knew exactly how they built the pyramids.
Do you have anything else, or do you want to do the last two questions I've got?
Let's do the last two questions. I do have to get going, actually.
Yeah, I was like 3 hours. This is probably about it. Where do you want to be 10 years from now, and what would you have told yourself 20 years ago?
10 years from now, I want to still be working. I would still be creating. And it's very simple. I don't really want to change too much. I do have some dreams. One thing I'd love to have is a film adaptation of one of my books. That's a dream I have. I did try it once. I've had it, the end you're reading has been optioned twice, never went anywhere. Another book, Nemesis, was optioned. We got as far down as like picking where we were going to do it. We were going to film down, at some of these sets down there. And then the furthest I've gotten, we actually had some funding, and it was a book called Mother. It's or Detour. It's got two different titles. Anyway, that's the first I've ever gotten. That screenplay got done for that. Had the director picked, raised $2 million. All this thing had happened. And the Writers Guild strike happened, which then led SAG strike, which led to other projects being put on hold. And anyway, it's just a chain reaction, and the whole thing just went. And so I was like, okay, well, that didn't work. I keep getting closer and closer, but it's making movies not easy. It takes a lot of resources, by the way, and a lot of people to make it happen. So it's not something I can just snap my fingers, but it's something I would love to, within 10 years, to have that. But I just want to be able to be happy and healthy and still be creating.
And what would you have told yourself 20 years ago?
20 years ago is that really lean into the power of the mind, to push aside the things we kind of talked about in our conversation, like, push aside fear, anxiety. It's all made up, to just trust, not let fear take over. Like, I just really, really lean into that, because I've made decisions from lack in the past, from fear, and they were bad decisions because they're reactionary, not responsive. And, I could have, but then again, I don't have much regret. I don't believe in regret. It's just what it is. I think you can never go back in time anyway. I mean, say you could, I would never, because I believe you go back and you go to a certain point and you were correct. Well, then you set up a chain reaction of everything else. So I think it's best you have to live with your decisions. And so the more you can learn from a young age not to make those decisions, not to make bad decisions, then you'll live a happier and healthier life.
Cool. Well, that's all I've got.
Listen to your elders, man.
I know there's too many of them. It's just like, they just keep getting older. So I'll edit all this. This might take a couple weeks before I get it released, but I do want to let you get to where you need to go, so it doesn't take up too much of your time. But thank you. This was great. It was definitely not worth 3 hours, but it was great.
No, it was wonderful. No, it was worth every minute of it. I really had a nice time. I appreciate you. I really do. Thank you again. If you need any assistance if it comes to writing or books, let me know. Use me as a resource if you ever want to go down that road.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.